Greetings, fellow Empyreans. I am Astrothi, and it is September 18th, YC 125, and this is the Eve Universe Show! Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome if you are new. Settle in, like the stream, get ready to go, because we have a lot of ground to cover today. I also wanted to cover a topic, a lore topic that I don't think we've covered before. So I was actually originally, I was in the Eve Universe chat on the Discord. You can join the Discord using the link. But I was talking to the people in the Eve Universe Discord, and I was like, oh man, I should totally do something on the Guristas, right? The Guristas, the history of the Guristas and all that stuff. So I started writing things down and taking all my notes and all that stuff. And I was like, man, it feels familiar. So I went back and I realized that a year ago, I actually already did this. So I did an episode on Fatal and the Rabbit for the Guristas a little over a year ago. So go check it out. It's not like comprehensive, and I probably should revisit that topic. But what I haven't really talked about too much in the past, one of the things I have avoided is Mimitar lore, because it's much more complicated and kind of obtuse than I'm used to. However, the Guristas are only half of the latest kind of alliance that have come about, the Guri Malakim, with the other half being the Angel Cartel. The Angel Cartel being one of the more interesting and expansive and powerful of the pirate factions. So I thought that today we could look at the Angel Cartel, their history, and maybe look at how we can see how we got here when it comes to the Guri Malakim and the Deathless and all these different groups by looking at the history of the Angel Cartel in particular. So, here we go. What I'm reading from here is from the universe.eveonline.com, which I believe is actually just a straight up copy from the Eve source book that was published in 2015. So a lot of this stuff is accurate back in 2015, 2016. We're going to look at how things have evolved since then, but we're starting with this. The Angel Cartel. The Angel Cartel is one of the more newer organizations. Well, actually, no, they're not actually one of the more newer organizations. They came about around YC4. The Angel Cartel is regarded by many law enforcement agencies to be the most powerful and dangerous criminal organization in New Eden. The main reason for this assessment is the extent and scope of the cartel's criminal activities. While most of the major outlaw factions have operations spread throughout the cluster, the Angel Cartel is notable for the extent in which it has insinuated itself into the core empires, as well as its considerable interest in the outer regions. So this is one of those things, first and foremost, which is that a lot of people think that the different pirates stay in their own lane, and the Angel Cartel, more than anybody else, do not follow this rule. The Angel Cartel have ties within Caldari space, within Galente space, and certainly within Amar space, because these Angel Cartel are slavers, and so they have very close ties to the Amar slave trade. But we're going to get into all of that as we go. Few other criminal organizations, for example, could boast as strong links with the Mimitar underworld, while at the same time illicitly supplying slaves to the less scrupulous holders of the Amar Empire. When these interests are set next to the cartel's powerful presence in the Galente illegal drug market and the sinister tendrils it has inserted into Caldari corporate world, it can be seen that the Angel's reach is long indeed. The cartel has established itself as a power in the lawless outer regions, in particular the aptly named Cursed region, where it controls numerous stations and colonies. The impressive military power of the cartel is perhaps the most strikingly illustrated by the fact that it is an entire division, the Guardian Angels, dedicated to protecting the interests of its main partner in crime, the Serpentis Corporation. We'll talk a bit about that when we get to the history. The connection between the Serpentis has served to give the Angels a prominent presence in the Fountain region, making the cartel one of the few criminal organizations to maintain major holdings outside of its home region. The Angel Cartel reputation for ruthlessness and brutality has served to prevent interested parties from scrutinizing their organization operations too closely. But those who have, perhaps foolishly, made it their business to study the cartel soon learn that there is more than a mere crime syndicate. The cartel has shown marked interest in technologies and new and ancient. It has made its headquarters in a region believed to have been the home of the First and Second Jovian Empire, and it typically discourages exploration and inquiry into its own domains with a swift and absolute response. All this said, The students of the Angel Cartel who have survived long enough to put their thoughts on paper all agree on one point of note. The Angel Cartel seems to regard Capsuleers as their greatest threat. Not rival pirate groups, and certainly not the old empires. So the Angel Cartel are actually kind of ticked off because of the fact that they were formed in YC4. Now, the Concord Charter says that Concord is to preserve the Dark Age empires. They have been excluded as being considered a significant empire for that reason. You know, they didn't arrive until just after the Charter, and we're going to look a little bit into that too. They think it's fairly unfair that the Angel Cartel are not respected as an empire, given the fact that they have, quite frankly, the breadth and the scope and the strength and the resources to be one. So let's talk about the formation of the Angel Cartel. The history of the Angel Cartel is shrouded in mystery, along with everything else in the Jovian, involving the Second Jovian Empire. Mysteries, rumors, and legends, most contradictory and puzzling by most, but what is certain that the cartel in its current form began to come together sometime in the early period following the formation of Concord in BYC 3, so 3 years before the Ulai Convention. So, what is it? Oh, it's YC 123 right now, so that'd be 126 years ago. Several accounts mention cartel operations in the Heaven constellation at this time, and first mentions of the Angel Cartel is dated to YC 4, so that would be 7 years later. It is assumed that the cartel chose its name in reference to the Heaven constellation that would become its headquarters. The origins of the Angel Cartel prior to the first mention of its name are subject to much speculation and many conflicting theories. The most commonly accepted account is that the cartel began as a grouping of pirates and scavengers who aimed for and eventually achieved dominance over the lawless inhabitants of the Heaven constellation. The constellation and the Curse region as a whole had a couple of centuries been one of the most attractive destinations for adventurers and freebooters from the core regions. On the edge of the civilized world, yet relatively accessible, Curse has had much to recommend it to those of a mind to rove in search of a lucky strike, or who, just as often, simply wish to prey on others at a comfortable distance from law and order. This presence of many ruins in this region also suggested the previous domination of a powerful civilization, which some suspected to be a precursor of the recently revealed Jovian Empire. Okay, so basically what you have here is this area of space that is towards the fringe of what was then the Amar Empire. Okay, so let's look a little bit into this. We have, if we open up our map, and we go to, so we have Curse, we have the Great Wildlands, we have Molten Heath, and we have Metropolis. So this whole area is, well, these three, Metropolis, Molten Heath, and Great Wildlands, are of course Mimitar now, right? But remember, so down here is all the Amar Empire. In fact, let's go ahead and look at this. All factions and alliances. Is that going to do it? Yeah. So we can see here that this kind of yellowish area is the Mimitar Republic, or the orangish area is the Mimitar Republic, and this yellowish area down here is the Amar Empire. But remember, this is before the Mimitar Rebellion. My point is that this area was considered to be Amar Empire space at the time of the early Angel Cartel, right? So this whole territory was Amar space, and then the Mimitar Rebellion happens. So let's read about what happens then. It was not long after the first suspicions arose of Jovian connection with Curse, Mimitar Rebellion took place, an event which heralded a new influx of refugees, often heavily armed ones, into the region. All semblance of order rapidly broke down as scores were settled and new conflicts erupted. The most powerful groups began to band together in ever larger cartels and contended for supremacy over Utopia and the Heaven constellation. The Angel Cartel in particular boosted its numbers so much that they went from controlling and developing the Utopia system and Heaven constellation to having an entire region at their mercy. Along the way, they defeated other cartels who had sought to profit from the immigration and absorbed others into their ranks. A few years after this coalesced, some 10 years after Concord was founded, the Angel Cartel has achieved total control over Utopia and the surrounding systems. From that key position of power, it was not long before the cartel became the unquestioned power within the Curse region. The cartel, however, did not leave it at that. Their position of power began to attract outlaws from across New Eden, and likewise they sent out forces beyond their home. The Archangel's division in particular is tasked with this, and are still the most common one to meet outside of their home. What we have here is the Mimitar Rebellion. Now, if you go back to, I did the reading of the Odyssey, the events that lead up to the Mimitar Rebellion. Basically, the Amar effectively try to buck up against the Jovian Empire. The Jovians had recently revealed themselves to the lesser races, and the Amar saw the Jove as a particularly prescient threat. You know, like the Galente and the Amar had a kind of a standoff, mostly because they were like a cluster away from each other. But the Jovians presented a threat that the other empires didn't to the Amar, and they were basically drawn into conflict with the Jovians, which led to the fight at Vac Atioth, which is one of the most critical failures of Amarian military in the history of the Amar. This was their first great critical defeat, and it was to the hands of the Jovians, right? So this failure, or allows the Mimitar rather, to rise up within the weakened empire and throw off their shackles, which brings this whole area of space into absolute chaos. Okay, so now there's this area of space, which is now known as the Curse region, which had all of these weird ruins all over the place, which was close to, but not close enough to be under control of the empires. And so a lot of refugees from this conflict ended up going to the Curse region, and many of them were incredibly well armed. So this coalescing of like competition over Curse region begins to escalate as larger and larger organized cartels, or as certain groups begin to become successful and absorb or conquer more and more groups, until finally the Angel Cartel rise up as this as the forerunner of all of this. Now, we should go back and realize that in the beginning, we have the Genesis region, right? And we have in the Genesis region, there's the system of New Eden, which I'm not going to find just randomly, I don't think. But the system of New Eden is where the Eve Gate was, right? And the Jovians traveled from Genesis to Curse into the Utopia cluster, and that is where they created their first and second civilization. Now, a lot of what we know about those Jovian civilizations have been lost to time. We do know that they were probably even more technologically advanced than the current Jove are. The Second Jovian Empire were particularly known for doing biological manipulations, and a lot of the things that we see about the Jovians' biology were established during that time. However, the collapse of the Second Jovian Empire, and really the whole history of this region, gets shrouded into mystery, as for whatever reason, the Jovians leave the Curse region towards the end of the Second Jovian Empire to migrate north to what is now the Jovian systems, including UU-ATEC F4 and whatnot, where the Caroline Star and all those things were... Oh, no, sorry. U7H Z-Tech F and AB21 Tech A. UU-ATEC F4, I think is... That's... Oh, yeah, no. That's Jovian 2. Sorry, my bad. Because here's W477 TAC P, which is the Caroline Star that blew up. So either way, the point is that we now have this rapidly growing group that emerges directly after the Mimitar Rebellion. This is why we have this group that forms just before Concord gets formed and all these kinds of things. But yet they get snuffed and they're not considered an actual empire. The initial influx of adventurers into Curse was made up of Amar explorers and renegades of one kind or another, and in sparse numbers at that. Nevertheless, it became clear that another civilization had relatively recently occupied the region. The disappointment of prospective slavers, no matter the inhabitants, no remaining inhabitants were ever found. Even where intact structures stood among the desolation of the rest of the region, in most cases, nothing but rapidly crumbling ruins were found, as if the withdrawal of the civilization itself had triggered a hasty decay. In later decades, and particularly in the century before the Angel Cartel emerged, the population of scavengers and pirates making the Curse region their home became more varied, and many escaped Mimitar, in particular choosing it as a hiding place from the wrath of the Amar Empire. Nevertheless, the first Amar explorers left their mark on the gateway constellation they called Heaven, and the systems retained their names the Amar bestowed upon them. In the decades following the Amarians' first contact with the Glentate and the Caldari, particularly adventurous and hunted individuals from those nations found heaven as an attractive destination. The first stations began to be built, with the Utopia system becoming a natural hub of the constellation. Soon after the Jove made themselves known to all empires, the few remaining archaeological expeditions in the Heaven constellation came to the realization that the crumbling civilization that had once called the Curse region home had been Jovian. Eventually, evidence amassed that the ruins of the lost civilization in the Curse region were indeed Jovian, and that the artifacts recovered dated back to the First and Second Jovian empires. It is to this day hard to say how much of the Angels are uncovered, and they remain tight-lipped about their discoveries. Publicly, they will often downplay the role of Jovian technology may have played in their own rise to power, but what is certain is that the design of their ships bear a remarkable resemblance to that of the Jove. However, practically, these hulls perform more like Mimitar ships, being fast, agile, and packing a lot of punch. It is unclear if this ship design emphasis is a preference that has served the Angels well, or if they have adapted what they knew due to a lack of actually valuable technology left behind. Alternatively, some have suggested that most Jove technology is likely so advanced that the Angels were not able to even operate it, suggesting this is far more upsetting to the cartel than the implication that their technology is stolen. So the question is, did the Angel Cartel steal or, like reverse engineer Jovian technology and just kind of give that as an excuse? And that's why Angel ships are so agile and fast and seem technologically, awesome? Or did they just like refine Mimitar style or like design principles, but they kind of borrowed from the aesthetic of the Jovian empires because that's the ruins that they saw? It's hard to tell. We don't know because the Angels are not opening up about it. However, all of this kind of comes together a little bit later, where in YC 75, the Serpentis Corporation comes to power. So we're going to actually take a brief diversion and look a little bit into the Serpentis Corporation, okay? So the Serpentis Corporation was founded by a guy named Sarpati. Sarpati was a Galente biochemist. His name was Egil Sarpati. The Serpentis Corporation was contracted by the Galente Federation to investigate the potential for new neural boosters within the military. When the Federation Senate later banned the boosters, Serpentis quickly collapsed, sharing the fate in almost all other companies that had invested in the booster trade. Not long after the company closed down, Egil Sarpati died. Suddenly leaderless, his family looked set for obscurity and relative poverty. So we have this guy who becomes this big, he runs this huge pharmaceutical company within the Galente Federation, and then the Galente Federation outlaws those boosters, which leaves all of those different military contractors and other people like that high and dry, okay? And the head of the Sarpati family dies a broken man, effectively. However, he did have an adopted child, Virg Salvador Sarpati. He was a Caldari patronage. The young Sarpati became the head of the family after his father's untimely death. The collapse of his father's company and the worsening of the family's circumstance that followed marked the young Sarpati for life. Evidently, the youth endured much mockery from his contemporaries, but the experience only fired his determination to restore the Sarpati family fortune. Preferring the name V. Salvador Sarpati, and with a talent for business, this new head of the Sarpati family was eventually able to found his own company. Taking an old form of the family name, he called it the Serpentis Corporation. Sarpati knew that the research and development could be lucrative fields so long as the work were sufficiently diversified to limit the risks. Over time, he maneuvered the Serpentis Corporation into a leadership position in the field of space colonization and industrialization technologies. In an echo of his father's work, space medicine became a particular field of interest to the young executive, and thus by proxy, his corporation's large R&D division. So the Serpentis Corporation becomes this massive R&D division that works kind of on the fringes of legality, and in particular focuses on, that medical research, but also space colonization. So Sarpati makes his big maneuver by purchasing a system in the Phoenix constellation. At the beginning of the YC 75, Sarpati settled on a plan. He acquired a system in the Phoenix constellation and named it Serpentis Prime. Rapidly building an advanced space station, he transferred his core operations from Serpentis Prime and began expanding his research ventures into forbidden territories. Part of Sarpati's strategy was to open up his station to the inhabitants of the Fountain region, earning their support and favor. That many of these locals were criminals and outlaw pirates was of little concern to him. Once he had established himself, it was believed that he retrieved his father's old neural booster formulas from the family archives and turned his research facilities over to working on them. The Serpentis Corporation was now set on a path that would lead it well beyond the confines of the law. So, again, so the Salvador Sarpati had the ruins of his father's company. So he pulls it together enough to turn it into this like medical research and colonization research and development company, and then ends up going and purchasing a system in the Phoenix constellation, and he sets up a system which he effectively creates Tortuga, right? Like this idea of like the pirate's haven. Anyone can come here. And so because of this, he gains tons and tons of contacts within the criminal organizations, within smuggling organizations, and most importantly, with the Angel Cartel. Okay? So, Salvador Sarpati took great risks when he opened his station to outlaws and pirates, but he made sure to get his corporation powerful protection. In an extraordinary and dangerous move, he struck a deal with the notorious Angel Cartel for protection for his station and facilities. In return, the Angels would get a cut of the Serpentis trade and access to any research breakthroughs the Serpentis Corporation made. So the Serpentis Corporation becomes like a research and development wing for the Angels secretly, while the Angels become kind of the defense wing of the Serpentis. Over time, this deal has been so lucrative for the Angels that they have found it worth building an entire division known as the Guardian Angels, dedicated to protecting the Serpentis space with the help of the Angel Cartel. The Serpentis developed their own security forces, with Salvador Sarpati eventually able to command a powerful navy in its own right. So, and then of course, Salvador Sarpati also has gotten involved in all of this stuff recently, because, so, his sister, another Sarpati, her name is Santamonia Sarpati. So Santamonia Sarpati, his sister, and I think that she's actually like the proper daughter of Igil, but she is a high-ranking member of the Sisters of Eve. So the Sisters of Eve and their humanitarian efforts. And she gets involved. She actually really doesn't like her brother. She refers to him as King Serpent. She refers to Serpentis Prime as the royal court, which of course she is Sisters of Eve. And so this idea, like these references to nobility and empireness is an insult to her, right? But she has her own thing going on, which is that there's another member, another character that we kind of need to touch on really quickly, named Silphy. Silphy and Diabel. Now, Silphy, her father was the head of a facility in the middle of Nullsec in what is now Intaki Syndicate space, a system that you may have heard of known as Poidot. Poidot is the only named system in Syndicate, but that's partially because Poidot is effectively the capital of Syndicate. Now, when Silphy's father, I think it was, passed away, there was a bunch of concern about who was in control of that area. And so effectively there was a series of blockades and other shady dealings that Silphy did with Salvador Sarpati in order to basically cut off Poidot from aid and support, or like from, cause basically economic crisis within the Intaki Syndicate, while at the same time working with the Sisters of Eve through Sarpati to bring in aid, which of course Silphy becomes the hero to the people and gains control over the Intaki Syndicate. I mostly bring this up because the Intaki Syndicate are really critical to the Galente Caldari side of things. It's not really as important to the Angel Cartel thing, but you got to realize that, like, with 2 degrees of separation, the Angel Cartel have their fingers in a lot of pies, is all I'm going to say. Now, it is worth noting that this, that eventually the Serpentis, or, Sarpati, the head of the Serpentis organization, Silphy and Diabel readily agreed to Sarpati's proposal that the Intaki Syndicate and Serpentis Corporation collaborate in their efforts to control the Gallente Federation black market. So once in control of the Intaki Syndicate, Silphy actually starts working with Santimonia's brother, the head of the Serpentis, and they end up working together to become basically the leaders of the Gallente gray market. Much to the chagrin of Santimonia, which becomes this big sticking point between Silphy and Santimonia. So back to the Angels, however. So now the Angels have their deal with the Serpentis, which gets them a lot of money and a lot of resources and a lot of clout back in YC 75, and only further brings their tendrils into the Gallente Federation. The deal turned out to be so beneficial that the Guardian Angels, once tasked with RAD, became security specialists for the Serpentis Corporation, and their former responsibilities were passed on to the Salvation Angels division instead. Stations were erected in each respective home regions as well, making it so that both are special in having stations not only at the heart of their own seat of power, but also on the other side of the cluster. This has given both organizations strategic advantages in having multiple staging points spread widely around the edges of the New Eden cluster. The deal with Serpentis also brought the cartel into its first major conflict with another faction. The Guardian Angel forces clashed with Mordu's Legion when the later made its incursion to Serpentis Prime in YC 106. This incident is yet another unsolved mystery into the history of the cartel, but is speculated to have been involved research into highly advanced technology. So this is actually a really big point, both for the Serpentis and for the Angel Cartel and for the Mordu's Legion. In YC 106, it was Mordu's Legion that embarrassed the Guardian Angels when the former led an incursion into Fountain. Moria Mordu led the operation, and the Guardian Angels commanders Bin Jerdola and Setili Shalian took to the field to chase him and his troops back out. The conflict had been a tactical cat-and-mouse game until they arrived. Even during this ensuing battle, the Legion suffered only minimal losses and caused the cartel forces to retreat and regroup. During this, however, Mordu ordered his own fleet to return home. It is unknown if the Legion got what it came for, or if they simply felt that they were outnumbered in Serpentis' home turf. Luckily for the Angels, it did not jeopardize the relationship between the Serpentis, and the lessons learned from this incursion was put to use to strengthen the perimeter against other unwanted invaders. There is actually another side note to this whole thing, which is that this event with the incursion of the Mordu's Legion. So the Serpentis capture a Gallente Titan in YC 107 and steal it. YC 106, Mordu's Legion attacks the Angel Cartel. Now, it seems that the Mordu's Legion is attacking on behalf of the Outer Ring Excavations. Now, Outer Ring Excavations had, yes, it was a Lapitan Titan, so one of the old school ones, the big terrible ones. Mordu's Legion attacks the Serpentis Angel kind of conglomerate in YC 106. Now, this causes this has to do with the change of command of Outer Ring Excavation. The Serpentis did not like the Mordu attack by that was apparently by Outer Ring Excavation, and so it's at this point that the Serpentis actually buy out Outer Ring Excavation in a hostile takeover. So that's something worth noting, is that so the Angel Cartel are partnered with the Serpentis, and the Serpentis at this point own Outer Ring Excavations. That does change later on, in particular when Upwell shows up. Then in mid-YC 108, so shortly thereafter, Sansha's Nation begins to find life again. Now, Sansha was defeated back in YC 36 by the collective effort of all four of the great empires. However, in YC 108, Sansha's Nation begins becoming like a very active group. In mid-YC 108, the Angel Cartel found itself in a defensive against a longtime regional enemy of Sansha's Nation, the later based in a nearby Stain region. Major attacks by Sansha's Nation forces against the cartel holding in the Impasse and Faithabolis regions marked not only an unusual resurgence in nation activity, but also an escalation in the two outlaw factions' rivalry into open war. The events of this period of warfare between the Angels and Sansha's Nation also saw an uncharacteristic reliance on the cartel and Capsuleer allies. Speculation suggested that Sansha's Nation incursion into cartel space were aiming to seize ancient technologies uncovered by the Angels. It is widely believed that this is the point in time in which Sansha got access to the portal device he would later use for incursions. What is remarkable about this conflict is that the cartel called upon the help of Capsuleers to drive the invading forces back. Indeed, it seems that the Dominations diplomat Xavier Kuhn had been in contact with the then sovereignty-holding alliance Ascendant Frontier for a while already. Eager to prove their worth and might to both the cartel and the nation, they deployed in full force alongside the cartel. While at first it seemed that the nation had the upper hand, the Capsuleers turned the tide and ultimately destroyed the Sansha's nation fleet in full for only some minor losses. They even went so far as to take out the POS that the nation had deployed as a staging base. While the conflict died down after that, the Angels maintained a very hostile attitude towards Sansha's nation. So this was actually a real in-game event, right? So YC 108 is 2006. Two of the most noticeable incidents in recent history involving the Angel Cartel took place in YC 110, which is 2008. The first incident in January of that year was astonishing mainly for the revelation of the weakness of the Caldari state at the time. With the SCC, Secure Commerce Commission, investigators revealing evidence that the Angel Cartel's infiltration and financial backing of several Caldari corporations. The second incident demonstrated just how brazenly the Cartel could be as an invaded and occupied Starkon system in the Mimitar Republic in May YC 110. So this is the first huge moment of the cartel, right? So SEC, here we go, in YC 109, so 2007, 11/30. So November 30th, 2007, we have further investigations have revealed more direct links between Caldari research company Itsukame Innovations and the Angel Cartel organized crime syndicate, including damning testimony by Kikuyo Renzomon, an executive assistant arrested during last week's raid by Concord investigators, agreed to testify against Itsukame and executives on board members in exchange for leniency. Information including saved electronic correspondence provided by Renzomon revealed that Itsukame CEO Nu Koto Sarios was not only aware of the Angel Cartel involvement in the company, but also consulted them regularly for direction. In these revelations, the SEC summarily denied Itsukame's request for executive patent rights to unstable wormhole technology. So that's interesting. We have, Angel Cartel and wormhole technology. We see this weird connection between the two. In a prepared statement released just after the ruling was announced, the SEC spokesman unequivocally stated, quote, Concord and the Secure Commerce Commission will not sit idly by while criminal profits through the illicit development and sales of arms technology. A message needs to be sent to the criminals and those who knowingly aid them that this will not be tolerated. In addition to simply denying the patent, the SEC took further steps to publicly releasing all of the particulars of the patent request, including technical data, design specifications, and project schematics. Ostensibly, this was to comply with the technology parity stipulations of Concord Directive Alpha Gamma 12. An SEC representative close to the case said, quote, this development was funded by pirates, so presume that they, the Angel Cartel, don't have it themselves by now is foolish. It would be irresponsible for Concord and the SEC to not only release this information to the member states so that the navies can deal with this threat, or to not to release this information to the members of the states so that the navies can deal with this threat. The response had been swift, with Viziam and Creajon already announcing that they are conducting their first prototypes based on Itsukame's designs. In a further blow, Itsukame Innovations have been divested at auction of the SEC. All shares of the proceeds that would have gone to the Angel Cartel backwards, an estimated 89% of Itsukame's total value, will instead go to Concord, presumably to fund future investigation and enforcement efforts. This controversial decision, set off by the Caldari Chief Executive Panel, aflame with vitriol. Ivoras Tanio, Chief Financial Officer and for the CEP, was particularly livid. Quote, for better or worse, Itsukame is incorporated in the Caldari state and therefore subject to Caldari sovereign law. What we are looking at here is a Caldari corporation being plundered by Concord and the SEC. This is a travesty of interstellar justice, and we at the Chief Executive Panel will not rest until all of Itsukame's assets and proceeds are back in state possession, end quote. Other empires have been more sanguine about the decision. However, Kadidine Barach, a junior member of the Galente delegate of the Concord Assembly, said, quote, left to their own devices, the Caldari would simply chop Itsukame up and sweep it under the rug like they always do. I'd like to remind everyone that this is what got them into this mess in the first place. When Itsukame bought parts from Inotech divestiture, it was to cover up previous crass diplomatic incident. I think that the SEC decision is eminently fair. and at least we know that the money is going to a good cause, end quote. In the meantime, Ren Zomon continues to name names, and many wonder what future revelations this investigation may hold. Then it says so then 5 months later in 2008, April, right? Yeah. April 5th, 2008, we have, after months of painstaking investigation, agents of the Secure Commerce Commission have discovered still more startling evidence that the Angel financial backings of Caldari companies. Thousands of man-hours have already gone into the case, with mountains of financial records and tax statements being parsed, compared, and fact-checked to excruciating detail. Yet investigators feel that the efforts have paid off, and no fewer than 20 Caldari corporations, most heavily involved in manufacturing and or advanced research and development, have been implicated. Quote, "This is by far the most extensive investigation of this kind in history," said the SEC representative Hangren Look, "and it hasn't been easy. The cartel's method of diversifying its front companies and hiding its assets were quite sophisticated. And to make matters worse, the Caldari Chief Executive Panel has resisted us every step of the way, trying to stymie our efforts by any means possible. Honestly, they should be thanking us for exposing this cancer in their financial systems." So what we see is that the Angel Cartel have invested pretty significantly in several of the Caldari corporations. We see them spreading their tendrils ever forward. And you know, once again, this is a crisis that happened in 2008. This is in tandem along with you know, the Apocrypha event. You know, this is when the wormholes are opening up. This is when sleepers are first showing up. This is a big time and a very tense time for everybody. For their part, the Caldari financial sector was quick to fire back. "Cancer," said Harabin Igaro, the financial analyst for the Mercantile Club. "We are talking about what? 20 companies here? There are literally tens of thousands of companies publicly traded on Caldari stock exchanges. While Igoro admitted that there is investments loopholes that could have been closed to prevent this kind of illicit sheltering in the future, he was adamant that the SEC was blowing the extent of the problem out of proportion. This kind of hyperbole drastically overstates the issue and is irresponsible on the part of the SEC. While most of the corporations implicated in this investigation have been relatively small companies, such as Itsukame Innovations, the company who routinely patent applications set this investigation into motion, there has been a few larger victims as well. Most surprisingly, it's been confirmed that a series of 4 related holding companies, headed by Goju Security Limited, a confirmed cartel front, and Angels are heavily invested in the nanomechanical research giant Xanu Biotech. Why is Xanu Biotech a big... YC-110 was a period age, not Apocrypha. 2009, you're right. Apocrypha was the next year. So this is actually previous. This is prior to the Apocrypha event. You're absolutely correct. Okay. So that's actually kind of interesting. So they're working on wormhole technology prior to the Apocrypha event. Thank you for that correction. The reason why this is important, actually, is because Xanu Biotech, after the Apocrypha event, is also highly connected to the fact that Hilen Tukoss being one of the most famous characters involved in the Apocrypha event and its fallout, he actually left Eifer & Co. and joined Xanu Biotech. So Xanu Biotech has had this really tight... he was in Xanu Biotech and then left for Eifer & Co. So Hilen Tukoss worked for Xanu Biotech when all of this stuff was going down with the Angel Cartel. And then after the Apocrypha event, Hilen Tukoss leaves Xanu Biotech and joins Eifer & Co. Okay, so that, I mean, you know, tinfoil it up, I guess. Xanu officials were quick to comment on the revelation. In a press conference convened within hours of the news breaking, a spokesman of Xanu Biotech said, quote, this is a publicly traded company. We do not have a habit of check credentials of every private investor seeking to purchase shares in our stock. Xanu officials went on to point out that the very sophistication exhibited by the cartel, which made Concord's investigation so difficult, makes it virtually impossible for a single company, even a mega corporation, to perform similar check before allowing a stock purchase. Quote, any angel investment into Xanu Biotech is plainly a money laundering scheme, and it must be remembered that Xanu is the victim here. Meanwhile, Caldari officials remain adamant that this is a purely internal matter and should be handled according to Caldari corporate law. This is no longer simply a matter of profits from potential interstellar patents. If Concord thinks that they're going to seize any part of Xandu's assets like they seized Itsukame, then they are out of their minds, end quote, said Avoris Tanio, CFO for the Caldari Chief Executive Panel. Quote, if anyone is going to profit from the divestiture of criminal assets, it's going to be the Caldari people. A lot of Triglavian presence in systems with Xandu stations. That's true. The question is that increased Triglavian presence because they're both interested in the same thing? Meanwhile, Caldari officials remain adamant that this is blah, 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 blah. But there's growing sentiment that this has become all too common recently as Caldari business executives, that the perception of bias within Concord. The Dai Otoko, the spokesman for the Kalakiota, asked, quote, when will we see the SEC investigation of the Serpentis involvement in Galente corporations? Not soon, I imagine. It's kind of interesting to see this given how we are now when it comes to Concord, its relationship with the Amar, with Mimitar, with Caldari, and see what their relationships were at this point too. Because again, actually, that's a really good point. This is during the events that lead up to and include the Empyrean Age. So this is a point in time in which the Caldari corporate world is at its all-time weakest. This is the exact same environment that we see the rise of Hilen Tukoss, the populist leader that would then unite the Caldari and begin the Second Caldari-Galente War. Others see this as less of an issue of bias and more of an issue of Concord aggressively expanding their authority, which they were known to be doing during this time. Yokoi Koni Tomu, a spokesman for the NOH, remarked, quote, it is becoming clear that Concord has become completely out of control. They have usurped progressively more authority for themselves, and I think that this recent Aria business has shown that what little control empires have over Concord is slipping. It is my sincere hope that the revelation of this scandal will allow delegates to rein Concord in before it is too late. The Aria business that they're referring to, by the way, yeah, so this is the Coda Aria Inquiry, which is basically a document that is the Concord's evaluation of the events leading to the rogue drone lands lighting up. So, you know, obviously Galente hid a lot of this information from people until the rise of the rogue drones. So that's what they're referring to. Is that like, this is not the only crisis that's going on within the Concord world at the time. And a few voices have expressed even more radical viewpoints. A senior Caldari corporate official speaking on condition of anonymity remarked, quote, if Concord and their Galente cronies insist on picking the flesh from our body bit by bit, perhaps the Caldari state would be better off withdrawing from the Treaty of Ulai, end quote. While such strident remarks are in the minority, they are increasingly vocal minority. As a result of this investigation to go beyond the SEC tribunal, where there are sure to be more bumps in the already rocky relationship between Concord and the Caldari state. So the Angel Cartel basically sparks off this huge fight within the Caldari state. To review it a little bit, Itsukame was a Caldari corporate startup which made headlines in YC 109 when they subsequently poached high-profile researcher Dr. Grant Arataka from Lidai. Is that where Arataka Research Consortium comes from? That's where Arataka Research Consortium comes from, isn't it? Oh, see, there you go. From Lidai, and announced an important breakthrough into the use of unstable wormholes for transport technology. This attracted the attention of the SEC as improving the capabilities of mobile jump bridges is classified as military technology. So yeah, obviously wormhole technology was already established by the empires of EVE Online. The gates, the Stargates and stuff use controlled wormholes. So it's a little bit too early to get super tinfoil about this. It seems like these guys were just related to jump bridges as opposed to some sort of precursor knowledge of the Apocrypha event before it happens. I don't think that that's possible given the accidents that led to the Apocrypha event. During the routine work to grant Itsukame its exclusive patent to produce this technology, it was found that they had received substantial financial aid from various corporations with ties to or acting as a front for the Angel Cartel. After seizing substantial amounts of data from Itsukame and the investigation that lasted well into YC 110, it was discovered that as much as 20 Caldari corporations were implicated. While most were small, Xandu Biotech was one of the big ones that stood out. They, however, pointed out that anyone can invest in their publicly traded stock. We already dealt with that. So again, we just said that all of this is the events leading up to the Empyrean Age. And to knock that in even further, we have the beginning of the Starkon Crisis. Shortly before the YC 110 collapse of the Mimitar Republic's government, the Archangels claimed democratic sovereignty over the Starkon system. The Starkon Crisis carried on throughout May and June, with the Mimitar Republic apparently powerless to do anything about the cartel's occupation. Local inhabitants indeed appeared to be in favor of the cartel, both in their comments and in an apparent free and fair referendum held by the Angel Cartel. The inhabitants of Starkon II, dissatisfied with the failing promises of the Midgiller government to clean up the dangerous system, had sided with Archangels in a 10 million signature petition, as well as during a system-wide referendum. Being so close to Curse, the Angels had evidently been growing their influence over the local population for a long time. The Starkon Crisis was one of several incidences cited during the vote of no confidence in the emergency parliament session of the Republic called by the Republic Parliament head Malatu Shakur in June. Ultimately, coincidentally, with the Starkminer discovery, the cartel withdrew in haste and informed Concord that all claims were now to be considered void and rescinded. While Concord now considers the situation resolved, many kept discussing what could have caused this strange turn of events. No official word by the cartel was, however, given, and simply carried on their business as if they had gotten what they had wanted out of the affair. So, what is going on here? So, this is the Empyrean event, the birth of the Empyrean Age. We have several key moments that brought on the Empyrean War, right? And one of the biggest ones, one of the earliest moments, was the fact that Starkon. So Starkon is right here, and you can see it's in Molten Heath, right? It's at like the very border of what is now, Mimitar territory, okay? So basically what was happening was, this was, the Mimitar Republic had now been around for 100 years or so, but the Mimitar Republic was having difficulty maintaining its own power. At the time, Starkon was kind of at the very fringes of the border of Mimitar space, and so with the Curse region being right here, basically the Angel Cartel was able to provide a better government for the people of Starkon than the Mimitar were, and so they, shut off the gates and said, okay, well, we're part of the, is that Edencom propaganda? Never. You will never hear Edencom propaganda from my lips. Anyway, Starkon was a big piece of contention, and what ended up happening was the Karen Midgiller was in charge of the Mimitar Republic at the time. The more aggressive Brutor leader, Malatu Shakur, used this and other things that had been going on as a opportunity to basically do a vote of no confidence to the Midgiller government, and Malatu Shakur gains control over the over the Mimitar Republic. Malatu Shakur being still the Samatar, the head of the Mimitar Republic to this day. So, and then shortly thereafter, as soon as Malatu Shakur takes power, then all of a sudden the Angel Cartel are like, you know what? You guys can have Starkon. We don't need it anymore. You can have it. Which is kind of weird, sort of tinfoily, certainly a mystery. Definitely seems to look like they were, in on the whole attempt to get rid of Midgiller. But we're here now. The Angel Cartel remains one of the powerful, most fearsome, blah, 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 blah. So one of the cool things about the Angel Cartel culture that I wanted to talk about is the fact that the Angel Cartel, first of all, they are very, they're very culturally open, right? Anybody can join the Angel Cartel. So they've got a lot of Mimitar and other people like that in it, but they've got people from all over the place that come and join the Angel Cartel. The one thing I think is really, really fun about the Angel Cartel is that they actually have a rule, which is that actually as far as criminal activity is concerned, the Angel Cartel is indiscriminate. So long as the activity is illegal and can turn a profit, the cartel will happily take its due part in it. Of note, there is a very strong cultural prohibition against profiting from legal activity. So it is actually like against the rules. It is frowned upon and seen as like full members of the Angel Cartel are not allowed to make profits on legal ventures. They are only allowed to do illegal ventures. So by its very nature, and this is one of the reasons why when the Angel Cartel get involved, people get really suspicious, right? So it's like, if the Angel Cartel are pumping money into it, then chances are there has to be an illegal angle to it because they just won't do legal activities. But if legal activity is against the rules, legal activity is illegal illegal by the empires, right? I know. Legal activity is illegal in the cartel. It's kind of crazy. Yes, give me a like and share the stream. We need to let people know about what's going on. Angel Cartel are obviously one of the biggest people that are going to be involved in whatever's coming with FanFest and beyond. They are key critical members of the Guri Malakim and probably are one of the biggest, as we will see, making agreements with the Angel Cartel has been a big feather in the cap of the death list that he's been working on for quite some time. So let's just go ahead and keep on going. So in order to keep going with the story of the Angel Cartel, yes, we are skipping over some years that don't necessarily, where there isn't a ton of news. So this post is by Elzebeth Rhiannon. I can never remember how to pronounce her name. I will say this about Elzebeth. If at any point in time, anything in this stream that I say, if Elzebeth comes out and says, no, he's wrong, trust Elzebeth. I'm just going to say that right now. Like, Elzebeth is probably one of the most knowledgeable people when it comes to Minmatar politics and lore in all of EVE Online. So we're going to be checking out her stuff because she's looking into a group that is relevant to this story, and we're going to dig into, which is, in order to continue with what is going on with the Angel Cartel, we have to understand a little bit more about the Krullefor organization. So the Krullefor organization is a heavily well, yes, as most really, really knowledgeable lore people are, heavily biased in their own perspective. That is absolutely true. Doesn't mean that she's not knowledgeable. And look, all I can say is she does her homework and she brings the paperwork. So I'm going to be heavily abusing the fact that she's done all of this groundwork for me. Anyway, so the Krullefor organization is one of those things that's really, really interesting because as we go forward, we're going to see them a lot more, especially when it relates to this whole Starkon situation. Biased or based, why not both? So the Krullefor organization is one of those weird ones because it's hard to actually look up, right? You can't, like, I even tried to look up in the EVE Universe portal for the Krullefor organization. There is no actual, like, full-on entry for them. They are listed as a corporation within Minmatar corporations. What we have is the Krullefor organization, which was first heard about in YC 111, which is in 2009. Balagan Krullefor escaped from a maximum security prison in Metropolis. So in 2009-9-13, we have the 3 inmates escaped from a maximum security facility in Metropolis last night following an attack of several unidentified craft of the spacebound prison. Violent riots erupted and several security systems failed, and parts of the facility remained unregulated for hours before control could be restored. One of the escaped inmates is Balagan Krullefor, former head of the Krullefor family, the notorious Thucker criminal organization. So keep this in mind. Krullefor organization is a criminal Thucker group. The Republic Justice Department stated that the identity of the other 2 inmates is still unknown at this time, though they are of Thucker origin. According to a statement from the Republic Justice Department, the prisoners escaped during a routine transfer between 2 areas of the facility, blah, blah, blah. The past months have seen great increase in arrests made, says Justice Department Representative Akamad Skulada. Unfortunately, the prison system is not able to keep pace, and that's when we see events like this. This is another good example of the Minmatar being basically totally outstretched and outclassed in their ability to actually manage themselves as a state. Balagan Krullefor was 19 years into a life sentence. He was found guilty of a number of offenses, including several counts of murder, piracy, racketeering, and grand theft. At the height of his power, the Krullefor family was the largest unified smuggling enterprise between the Great Wildlands and the Metropolis. The family's leadership was dismantled 2 decades ago, but the organization is believed to be active on multiple fronts. We have the Krullefor organization that have disappeared. So in YC 114 in 2012, so now we are getting into the lead up and release of Dust 514, in which Krullefor organization becomes a pretty prominent figure, as Krullefor organization is one of the groups involved in Dust 514. So Angel Cartel conducts planetary attack on Odalef, hundreds dead, Molten Heath. Just over an hour ago, a fleet of ships belonging to the Angel Cartel conducted a multi-pronged attack and invasion of the settlements of Taldshad on the planet of Odalef 3. The exact death toll is unknown at this time, but confirmed to be in the hundreds, with just over 1,000 people injured in the attack. The cartel force, numbering in 60 starships with several landing parties, focused their attention on a cluster of Genesis vaults, giant biodomes containing a wide variety of plant life. The Genesis vaults, also are a project initiated by the Thucker tribe, but now spearheaded by the Matar Society for Natural Preservation and funded by the Native Fresh Foods. Their purpose is genetic synthesis and eventual full reconstitution of Matar's native flora, large parts of which were destroyed during the Amara Empire's invasion and occupation of the planet. It's devastating says Gungar Anra, foreman of the Matar Society of Natural Preservation. Quote, "This was one of our 2 biggest vault clusters, and there's almost nothing left of it. Years of dedicated research and billions of ISK down the drain, and for what? What does the cartel stand to gain from destroying our hard work?" End quote. When asked if the society would make any adjustments to security at the largest remaining vault site, located in Ishrun 2, Anra declined to comment. The attack comes in the heels of the message intercepted by unknown party and leaked to independent news outlets this morning, where a pair of alleged Angel Cartel capsule pilots are said to be discussing planned surprise attacks on a group they refer to variously as Savages and Gardeners. The motive for this attack is wholly unknown to this point. And then they correct where the vault's location was. It's actually in Boglikik 2. In YC-115, that there is new live operations within Mimitar borders. One of the first acts of Tribal Council was to determine that the Republic's security is currently lacking, especially on our border world. As such, the fleet has deployed ground troops to a number of areas we believed are harboring cells of terrorist criminals and other threats to the Mimitar people. When asked about the nature of these threats, Elzebeth explained, quote, "They come from many sectors. The Angel Cartel, for one. There are also concerns about a possible Amar insurgents attacking colonies, in apparent reference to the Brigand Order assault on the Starkmanir colony by Vard 7th early the other week. Apparently, additional security are not been sufficient in the sex status of the systems. The majority of these operations are taking place planet-side," Elisar said. While the Republic fleet would prefer to provide maximum protection to all systems, space superiority is not feasible with our current manpower. However, we are able to strategically redeploy ground troops from away from high-security systems with confidence, thanks to our ability to interdict any hostile forces before they can deploy planet-side. Surveillance probes have already captured several apparent engagements being fought by deployed troops. Some rumors have begun to spread, claiming the fighting is taking place at supposedly top-secret Republic military facilities, but the Republic fleet has dismissed these rumors as patent nonsense. What is happening here? We're seeing the rise of the clone soldiers. Cloned mercenaries flood to Molten Heath. Within the first 10 minutes of the Thucker tribe opening planetary districts in Molten Heath to clone mercenaries, every district set aside has been claimed by independent corporations. Individuals continue to arrive by the thousands as they fortify their newly claimed districts and prepare to sell their skills to the highest bidders. Entire planets have been claimed by corporations such as SVER, True Blood, and Delta Force, while others are split between many different corporations. Already reports come in that several corporations have planned assaults on rival mercenary groups in an attempt to claim more land for themselves. The Thucker tribe, however, is dismissive of the potential violence between corporations and instead noted the positives. A representative from the tribe said, quote, "Within hours of announcing our plans, local chatter from the Angel Cartel increased 10 times over. The Republic's security services has told us that many of them are highly worried about the presence of the clone mercenaries and the capsuleers they will draw into the region. The Angel Cartel itself has not made any statements on the matter, but reports have come in that several Angel Cartel ships have been seen evacuating the region. However, other reports show that the cartel continuing to engage in criminal activities inside of Molten Heath. The Mimitar Republic has similarly refrained from making any official statements on the Thucker tribe's invitation." Dust 514. So in order to deal with the Angel Cartel, the Thucker tribes have brought in a bunch of mercenary corps and other groups in order to basically claim the territories of Molten Heath and pushing out Angel Cartel efforts. The Thucker tribe today announced that it is inviting clone mercenaries to Molten Heath in an effort to police the region and protect it from piracy. The region, long known to have been a haven for the Angel Cartel, has fallen on difficult times recently and virtually abandoned by the Republic fleet. The Thucker tribe, which controls numerous stations in the region and interests in it, has an important route between Great Wildlands and the heart of the Republic, made the announcement earlier this morning. In a statement to the tribe said, quote, "In an effort to improve the lives of the Mimitar people, the Thucker tribe is extending our invitation to the clone mercenaries of New Eden to settle in Molten Heath. Numerous districts and temperate planets in Molten Heath have been designated for your use. We offer them to you free of any strings." The representative of the Thucker tribe said, "This is a win-win situation for us. The mercenaries will settle on planets and discourage the Angel Cartel from attempting to invade. We have seen before in Starkon, Kenora, and Odalef that the cartel has no fear of attacking planets and attempting to annex entire systems. Local Republic forces are not able to secure them. Numerous highly armed and armored immortal soldiers, however, should prove to be a deterrent. The move is already generating controversy within the Mimitar Republic." Blah, blah, blah. So then Angel Cartel feels pressure in Molten Heath. According to reports of the Republic law enforcement, the Angel Cartel has begun to experience a downturn in fortune within Molten Heath, and the combination of clone mercenaries, Thucker tribe assets, and elements of the Republic fleet While the Thucker tribe and Republic fleet have been active in Molten Heath for years, the newly settled clone mercenaries have enabled them to refocus their operations. So we see already that the Thucker tribe becomes one of the bigger forces against the Angel Cartel during this time. An initial report commissioned by the Tribal Assembly on the low security areas of Molten Heath under the control of clone mercenaries indicate general positive results. According to the report, the area of quote, more secure, better protected, and free of organized criminal elements, but also cautioned violence between the military occupants is high, and negative elements may be attracted. The report, which has been undertaken by the Republic's security services, indicate that the presence of the Angel Cartel on occupied planets has dropped sharply within the weeks since the clone mercenaries have arrived. This apparently had a disruptive effect on the Angel Cartel services throughout the region, and with disruption of boosters, racketeering, and other criminal activities seeing a noticeable downturn. Oh, without direct presence of clone mercenaries have seen the benefits. The Kronos Alliance has thus far claimed the most territory in the region. This is all Dust 514. At the end of 2015, so 6 months later, Empires-led capsuleer assault on pirate ends in failure. Actually, this requires a video.
I got hostiles inbound. What's your status?
Establishing connection in 3, 2, and primary defenses are breached.
Attempting brute force on secondary. Keep them off me!
Capsuleers of New Eden. We are aware your scanners are detecting cosmic anomalies of an unknown nature.
Deploying sentry drones. That should keep them busy.
These anomalies originate from covert research facilities known as ghost sites. They are run by hostile factions and pose a significant threat to the entirety of New Eden.
Battleships on grid. Time's up. We gotta go.
Negative. Just hold them off. I'm almost through.
The Empires demand full compliance with the following directive.
Capsuleer access to these illicit facilities is strictly forbidden.
Taking heavy fire.
Unauthorized interactions will be considered a violation.
Almost there.
Shields are down. There's so much damage.
And should you fail to comply,
I'm in. I've never seen anything like this. Wait. No. Abort! Abort!
there will be consequences.
So Rubicon represents a turn in a lot of different plot and whatnot, okay? So what we see is 2 Capsuleer strike forces, part of Operation Spectre, led by the admirals from the Empire navies, ended in failure on the 7th of after the general destruction of both fleets. The strike forces were targeted covert research facilities manned by the Angel Cartel and Serpentis. The pirate organizations were able to evacuate the facilities before scuttling them, making off with the majority of technology that they were studying. Nearly 2,000 Capsuleers gathered in Sorum Prime and in Maves as an effort to provide assistance to the Empires. In this respect, the call to action was a major success. However, the operations were plagued with difficulties beyond that. Observers noted that the large number of Capsuleers clogged Stargates, slowing travel and preventing the forces from moving in an organized fashion. Coupled with the distances between staging systems to the target, this resulted in the fleets becoming broken up. Additionally, both fleets ran into large forces of other Capsuleers, either aligning themselves with the pirates or of neutral parties, making opportunistic attacks, which ambushed and destroyed large portions of the fleets before either was able to make it to their final destinations of the systems of RMOC TAC-W in Curse and 8V TAC-SJJ in Syndicate. Reports indicated a 500 Capsuleer-strong camp with multiple mobile warp disruption bubbles interdicted one of the fleets in Dorel. Only a battered fleet, much smaller than the original size, was able to make it to RMOC TAC-W, while both admirals Ren Caretta of the Amara Navy and Sami Okuda of the Caldari Navy made it. They were swiftly destroyed by Capsuleers aligning themselves with the Angel Cartel. The forces moving from 8V TAC-SJJ fared little better. Though it reached its target largely intact, the fleet was incapable of defeating the Serpentis and their allies. Admirals Heder Elisar of the Republic Fleet and Avir Bavon of the Federation Navy were both potted, leaving their forces to proceed without clear instruction. Forces of Vindicators and Macarials, manned by Serpentis and Cartel pirates, were protecting the facilities, along with sizable fleets of Capsuleers who have arrived to assist the pirates. After establishing that the Empire's assault has failed, the pirates ordered the abandonment of their facilities, reasoning that they had been discovered. They would be targets once again. The pirates had evacuated the facilities using daredevils and dramules to quickly escape. While some of the frigates were caught by the Capsuleers, the majority escaped, making off with much of the valuable information, technology, and people. Those that were destroyed reportedly were carrying blue boxes. With the facility safely evacuated, they self-destructed and their pirate forces scattered. So this was an actual event that happened where a whole bunch of people got together and we tried to go and raid these two facilities and just got totally butchered by the players who, you know, basically a bunch of nullsecers were told where a bunch of highsecers were going to be led into nullsec. And it happened exactly as it's described here. It was a absolute bloodbath. And then shortly thereafter, we have these ghost sites popping up, right? And which have covert research tools. So according to reports, associates of the Angel Cartel, Blood Raiders, Guristas, and Serpentis have been putting out feelers among Capsuleers about recovering equipment salvaged from these so-called ghost sites that have been appearing recently. These ghost sites, which have been declared off limits by Concord, appear to be related to some form of cutting-edge research being conducted by various outlaw groups. In addition to retrieving numerous pieces of salvage and blueprints for the manufacturers of Ascendancy implants, many have also taken covert research tools from the site. It is apparently those tools which are being sought out by the pirate groups. Rumors indicate that the pirates will soon be creating buy orders through the go-betweens in order to recover them. This is actually something I actually did not know until I did this research today. You know, during the Shadow War, we got a whole bunch of covert research tools, and I was like, that's like covert research tools are not used to build that many things. And so I was afraid that it would just collapse the economy. But in spite of the fact that the amount of covert research tools greatly increased, their value didn't collapse quite as much as I expected. And this may explain why. I guess there is buy orders for you to sell covert research tools into. I need to look into this more. We're going to skip forward a little bit later. As those of you who may already know, shortly there, you know, around this time, a group of Intara Direct Action, Anakonobo Brigade, and Sekal Mercenary Group was pulled off of the planet of Shandeli by a mercenary leader known as the Deathless. Around that same time, an FIO dossier had disappeared from the Galente Senate and ended up in the Deathless's hands, who then transferred that information to Upwell. And Upwell began their operations in attacking the Serpentis fleets. The FIO dossier was on the new military buildup of Serpentis capital shipyards. The concerns of the Serpentis military buildup is passed to the DED. It is believed that the FIO dossier was stolen by who I believe to be Leopold and Valari, and then passed over to the Deathless, who then handed it off to Upwell Consortium. One of the very first things, Upwell Consortium's leader is the former head of the Outer Ring Excavation, right? So in the same way, when Yanni retires from Outer Ring Excavation, he hands it over to his buddy. His buddy is the one who uses the Mordus Legion to attack the Serpentis, and then ends up with the Serpentis buying out the Ore Corporation. So during this whole time, Ore Corporation was belonged to, secretly was owned by the Serpentis. Secretly was owned by the Serpentis until the Upwell Consortium was formed. One of the very first things that the Upwell Consortium did, the Upwell Consortium's chairman, the head of the Upwell Consortium, is Yanni, the old head of the Ore. So the very first thing that they did was buy out Ore to bring it back into his fold, and unleashed the Mordus Legion and the Capsuleers to basically butcher as many Serpentis people as possible. So there's this big conflict between Upwell and Serpentis that is fueled by the Deathless's information. The Upwell Consortium executives have warned that a buildup of Serpentis military forces and potential for increased criminal activity by the notorious Angel Cartel could lead to a cluster-wide instability. Meeting for the TechUpCon 118 Technology Summit and Expo at the Chemotech Research Center orbiting Ursular 6, executive representatives from Upwell Consortium member corporations were relatively open about their concerns, echoing reports from sources within Galente Federation's intelligence community. We're concerned, no doubt about it, says Chemotech CEO Boselna Enolt. In response to questions during her open session at Tech UpCon 118, the Serpentis Corporation is a very capable rogue actor with access to vast resources and some of the most twisted scientific minds in New Eden. Add to this the military capability of the Angel Cartel and the fact that these organizations have had years to hybridize and improve capsuleer-level militech, and we certainly have a problem as a civilization. I would wish that Concord would openly acknowledge this, but they seemingly don't want to as yet, and it may be up to the private sector. We'll have to take steps to fill in the gap. So they're criticized for this, and in the end, the scope ends up... Regarding other news, Yoshin Yisrael, CEO of Upwell, member and entertainment behemoth Impetus, was upbeat when questioned about the recent announcement of the Scope Galactic News Network's award for the first independent broadcasting license for Galnet operations. Quote, I welcome this. Impetus considers the Scope a partner and expect that the mutual benefits we have long enjoyed from our commercial relationship will continue in the future. So, at the same time, Scope becomes an independent broadcaster, which of course leads to Scope taking over the data. So, Upwell hands over, by the order of the Direct Enforcement Department of the Concord, Upwell hands over the details about the Serpentis corporations over to Scope in order to begin to broker a deal to allow Capsuleers to begin to attack these Serpentis facilities. Egnai, Republic Security Service Director of Operations in the Metropolis region, offers further support, speaking after Director Black to clarify his Republic position that, quote, the Republic Fleet and Republic Security Services are engaged in open and ongoing conflict with the Angel Cartel, and by extension, their allies in the Serpentis Corporation. A privately owned for-profit consortium should not be in a position where it is permitted to hold back intelligence that poses a risk to the security of any sovereign state in the cluster. So this is where they are demanding that Upwell Consortium hands over the information, and that's when we get the Shadow of the Serpent event, which is successful, and then a little bit later, the Directive Enforcement Department has given their list of official statement of Capsuleer involvement in the eradication of the Serpentis research and manufacturing sites during a press conference in Uli today. When questioned that Capsuleer's involvement in attacks of the Serpentis Corporation installations, General Karashi, who is considered many to have dislike of independent Capsuleers after placing bounties on several individuals last year, responded with praise, saying that, quote, Capsuleers across the cluster have proven their effectiveness in assisting with the reduction of threat over the course of the last few weeks, before adding that, quote, the DED offers our most sincere thanks to all Capsuleers who have contributed to this effort through contracts brokered by the Scope News Network, and hope to see more of the same from independent pilots who wish to assist. I don't know if this is relevant to anything, but in 2018, an Angel Cartel affiliated planetary defense force has been celebrated after fighting off an attack by a suspected rogue drone on the third planet of MTAC N7WD today. Sources among the Salvation Angels group told the Scope that they believe that the attack is an evidence of a new rogue drone swarm or even a Triglavian collective subversion of rogue drones in their space. Further investigation by the Scope Galactic Hour with Rhett Gloriax, however, revealed the true story to be even stranger tale than that. According to evidence released by the Galnet by the residents of MTAC N7WD-3 township of Hardscrabble, the purported rogue drone was actually a Hasiota Model 373 auto-combine harvester. Witness reports that the machine was in the small farming town's heavy equipment shop for maintenance when it suddenly burst free from the garage and headed directly towards the town center. The heavy-duty auto-combine then ran amok and did significant damage to multiple township buildings before the local Angel Cartel militia arrived. The crazed farming machine was brought to a halt after several rocket-propelled anti-armor plasma charges were fired into its control core. Images posted by Galnet Security shows the serial number of the Hasiota Model 737 in several places on the seared, twisted, and metaled wreckage. According to purchase reports, the auto combine was originally destined in Ren's 3, but the shipment was lost en route. When reached for comment, Ihumonopolis, Deputy Administrator of Agriculture Lauren Baer, admitted to playing a role in the havoc of Hardscrabble. Yeah, I sent the auto combine on a rampage. I was doing a check on our 373s and saw that one of them popped up as connected to the network. They must have been trying to do a software update or something, so I hit the auto recall. Hope it ran over some of those Angel bastards, said a Deputy Administrator Bear. The Angel Cartel declined a request for further comment. Hasiota representative noted that any warranties applying to their products would be void in the case of due to malfunction by an unaffiliated repair shop, uncontrolled exposure to explosive munitions, and illegal export into territories lacking the proper export-import licensing. So we next hear about the family in YC-115. 2013 is an organization behind one of the Dust 514 war clone operations. Quite how a fugitive crime lord was able to set up a military contracting corporation while wanted by both the Thucker tribe and the Mimitar Republic authorities is difficult to explain. Nevertheless, Balagan Krullefor managed it, and the organization supplies mercs and military equipment to various conflict zones. Some say that this is a sign of how truly chaotic the times are. Others suspect that the Krullefor is simply useful to certain powerful interests. So what we have here is the Krullefor organization, which is that criminal that escaped from the prison, has now managed to create a legitimate mercenary corporation. This is one of the groups that came from Dust 514, along with the Anakanobo Brigade, Intara Direct Action, all these kinds of things all come from that era. So then in 2019, in YC-121, Sekal Clan, a notorious Thucker mercenary clan, also involved in the mercenary war clone mercenary business, gains control of an Amar heretic fugitive Orlan Zashev and auctions him off to the IGS and releases him to the Amar. Republic Justice Department begins an investigation into the Sekal, which leads to connections with the Krullefor, and revelation that the two work closely together and control major parts of Molten Heath smuggler operations. Capsuleer war clone parties organize against the Krullefor, who claim to be unaffected. So Orlan Zashev is part of this whole thing when it comes to like Chakade and that whole business with the Blood Raiders and the attacks. We're going to look at those a little bit. But like this is now when a lot of those plots start to really take off. The Sekal clan is a Thucker criminal group, and they are working with the Krullefor organization. That's important to note. In the same year, the Sundale city of Mikra Merka on Matar gets hit by a death blow attack in what is suspected to be a revenge strike by Zashev and or Ala Chakade. A controversy arises about who's to blame for letting the attack go through, and the key witnesses, called the Sundale Six, disappear in an armed attack against the convoy when being transferred from RSS to tribal custody. They are found murdered later, rumored to have data pads similar to those left behind by Thucker assassins after the Parliament murders in YC-110. Republic Justice Department links the Sundale 6 transport attack with the Krullefor organization. Meanwhile, the turf war between the Angel Cartel and the Krullefor Sekal in Molten Heath continue. Okay, so here we go. We're going to start looking at some notes. RSS condemns outside agitators and links Omar and Angel Cartel slaving rings, attacks on Mimitar clans on behalf of cartel and terrorism and treason. Except for this is also when the Starkon Crisis is happening too. So this is all happening at the same time. Mimitar Republic launches surprise offensive during break in southern Flossison raids. We see in 2020, February 27th, YC-122. Angel Cartel turf war with Sekal Clan and Krullefor organization in Molten Heath continues. Gangland death toll over 1,000. So we're starting to see the gang war between Angel Cartel and Sekal with Krullefor. Around the time that the Ghost Ship shows back up, we see Krullefor organization raids Angel Cartel smuggler bases on Starkon 2. RSS tactically supporting Thucker gangsters against anti-Krullefor group. So Krullefor organization raids the Angel Cartel smuggling bases on Starkon, right? So Angel Cartel still has quite a bit of occupation in Starkon. And this is where things start to heat up, right? As Rarvos falls to the Triglavians, we see RSS endorses CBD IFER position on Starkon 2 security and designates Krullefor organization a local security contractor. So this is what's kind of weird, right? So CBD and IFER Co., CBD being a Caldari mega corporation, IFER Co. being Mimitar, work together and basically side with Krullefor organization as being the official, like, people maintaining Starkon 2. Better the enemy that we know, like in the world of like Krullefor organization and Sekal group versus Angel Cartel, they still side with the Krullefor organization because they're at least Thucker, right? Then Mimitar, Republic government, and Starkon asserts total and enduring sovereignty in the 7 tribes. Starkon, Molten Heath, Krullefor. Kumatar Krillefrit has asserted the Mimitar Republic's government and Starkon system will never consent to any diminution of the total and enduring sovereignty of the 7 tribes of Mimitar and Starkon. The Starkon system governor remarks were made in response to fresh Capsuleer and war clone conflict within Republic-affiliated forces over Starkon 2. Reports from independent observers in Starkon system has confirmed that a number of Capsuleers were engaged in an effort to resupply ground forces on Starkon 2 this last Saturday. To that end, the Capsuleers appear to be used the Planetary Customs Office in a Bowhead-class freighter operating in low orbit. Conflict in orbit around Starkon 2 erupted shortly after the large fleet of Sekal Expeditionary Force ships deployed over the planet, escorting their own flights of Bowhead-class vessels into low orbit on the planet. A battle between Capsuleer forces and the combined Sekal Krullefor fleet broke out when a Naglfar-class dreadnought opened fire. The capital ship was reportedly piloted by Capsuleer-affiliated and self-styled anti-Krullefor war clone forces engaged in conflict with the Krullefor Sekal and other forces on the surface of Starkon 2. The Kumatariat government has declared those war clone units outsider terrorists and claimed that an alliance with the Angel Cartel is among the alleged crimes of the war clones. The orbital battle ended following the destruction of this dreadnought and several Sekal battleships. Witnesses of publicly available telemetry also confirmed that Krullefor organization frigates were also in evidence as the Sekal ensured that 3 flights of bowheads were able to reach the planet safely. The bowhead class, a flexible transport platform that a number of mercenary and corporate security forces have found useful as a true planetary operations and material transport. The Scope military experts estimate that the Sekal Expeditionary Group has landed as many as 90,000 troops, fully equipped with and supplied for extended urban pacification operations. Kumatar Krullefor has himself been very clear on the position of the Republic's security government. Quote, "We have always maintained that outsider war clones are renegades and terrorists in league with the Angel Cartel, a criminal organization well known for spreading terror and with slave raids on the outer colonies of our people. We now have unequivocal evidence that these outsiders are in league with the Amar paramilitaries, following their brazen assault on a legitimate security contractor personnel transports alongside known Amar loyalists. We also see that a certain Matari organization has allowed the Amar to burrow deep within their ranks and is taking careful note of this. A popular slogan says, 'All invaders must die,' and we must extend that to their collaborators." Ash, like a lot of this hyper entwined with the play. Yes. That is a good point. Thank you, Lara Light. When I'm talking about, like, when we talk about capsuleers, these are actual people, players, doing things involved in this. The Bowhead pilots, the Nagelfar, like all these things are. This is a story that is being borne out largely through player actions, or at least in-game actions. Really cool. Was that an actual dust op? No. This was a EVA op. This was after, I think Dust 514 was gone by this point. We see this growing Krullefor and Sekal clan versus Angel Cartel turf war surrounding largely within Starkon, right? Which, as we've established, Starkon is already pretty fucking important to the Mimitar because of the previous history with the Angel Cartel back in the Empyrean Age events. Okay. So then things start to get real.
Despite an apparently lasting halt in major invasion operations by the Triglavian Collective, Edencom officials remain deeply concerned by this situation across the cluster, and all forces remain on high alert. Edencom units have taken the initiative by carrying out monitoring and evacuation operations in the 27 systems under Triglavian occupation, often supported by loyal Capsuleers. Fleets operated by Capsuleers have substantially contributed to evacuations in systems as far apart as Vale and Starkon. Triglavian resistance to these efforts remains high, and they continue to build up formidable defenses in the 27 occupied systems. Concord and governments across New Eden are urging the evacuation of citizens from those systems now under Triglavian control, even as New Eden's Stargate network struggles to maintain reliable service. It is now clear that for the past few weeks, the Gate network has been suffering intermittent but visible power fluctuations. While Concord and Edencom had not commented directly for many days, the increasing frequency of the fluctuations moved the Secure Commerce Commission to confirm that it is investigating the situation as a matter of urgency. The precise cause and mechanism of the fluctuations has not yet been determined. However, scientists in public institutions across New Eden agree that the tremendous changes to stars in Triglavian-held systems are very likely the root cause of these gate anomalies.
If we assume the frequency continues to rise at the same rate and extrapolate forwards, it seems inevitable that the fluctuations will begin to severely affect the stability of the gate connections. If the phenomenon does not stop soon, it's likely that the Stargate network of New Eden will experience a major, perhaps catastrophic event in 3 to 4 days' time. While the functions of Stargates, jump drives and so forth are well understood in theory and practice, it should be remembered that there are many open questions as to the fundamentals of space-time mechanics and dimensional interconnections. Triglavian FTL conduit technology operates in a manner which is clearly related to stable wormhole formation and transit, but it is sufficiently different that we do not fully understand it yet. Naturally, Many theories do exist on the subject, but none are comprehensive enough to fully explain the different realms of space which arise from extreme space-time topologies. There's phenomena such as dead space pockets and abyssal dead spaces. What we are seeing across the Gate network is a novel phenomenon, but we know from the Selene incident, Caroline Star, metaliminal storms, and archaeological evidence of ancient catastrophes, it is possible for powerful effects to cascade through Gate networks or cause wide-scale wormhole instability. Ultimately, in order to protect the wider network, we may be forced to disconnect the gates leading to Triglavian-held systems.
Despite the looming threat of a Stargate crisis, Edencom's Provost Marshal Cassia Vulcaneer has emphasized that the threat from Triglavian forces remains high. Marshal Vulcaneer has commended Capsuleers loyal to Edencom for their efforts across almost 200 star systems invaded by the Triglavians. Orders have been issued to monitor Triglavian operations in occupied systems, disrupting them where possible. Even so, the main effort for Edencom and Empire regulars at this time is focused on evacuating civilians out of occupied systems. This monumental task has been carried out with significant success in low-population systems, and particularly those where Triglavian world arcs have been repelled. However, fears continue to grow over the fate of those on the most heavily populated occupied worlds. This is Alton Hovery, reporting for The Scope.
All right, so the conflict over Starkon was suddenly disrupted as Starkon itself begins to be transformed into Pochvin. When the Triglavians invaded, there was 27 systems that was captured by the forces loyal to the Triglavian Collective. As soon as the 27th system was captured, the invasions ended and began this period of destabilization, which led to this video, and shortly thereafter, the formation of Pochvin as we know it. This immediately shifts, well, really, the Starkon falling into Triglavian control immediately shifts the focus of this entire conflict, right? Where now, especially Krullefor, the Mimitar dude, becomes focused more on anti-Triglavian efforts as opposed to the actual Sekal clan and Krullefor organization and all them. However, we do actually see that Angel Cartel and Krullefor organization fight running battles during the evacuation of gang members from Starkon 2. So even as Starkon is like getting ready to be sealed up by the Triglavians, the turf war between the Krullefor organization and the Angel Cartel is continuing. I point this out just to point out exactly how bloody and how entrenched this conflict between these groups were. Next, October 28th, which is 18 days later, we see Angel Cartel activity in Galente Federation Mimitar Republic space is on the rise, according to a joint statement issued by the Federal Intelligence Office and Republic Security Service following a security cooperation summit in AFE system. Angel Cartel affiliation, infiltration in industrial and financial operations is a particular source of concern in the two security services, with an increase in smuggling also noted. The RSS has also noted an increase in people trafficking carried out by the cartel, with the use of slave labor by industrial operations and fringe systems. Angel involvement in manufacturing and smuggling of all manner of illegal and counterfeit goods has been a great concern to the Mimitar authorities, with the Galente Federation noted as a major destination for such products. The FIO and RSS has committed to further cooperation in the fight against the Angel Cartel and its affiliates. In addition, the use of the cartel of outlaw mercenary groups and renegade war clones will be met by the development of dedicated FIO and RSS units mobilized or modeled on Saro's Red Troop counter war clone unit. We know that the Triglavians produce Isogen 10, but do we know if they actually use Isogen 5? Isogen 10 comes from the Abyss. We suspect that Isogen 5 is the material that is being pulled from the stars by the stellar transmuter, but we don't have like a locked-in 100% on that. So yeah, there's all this fighting going on involving players in these areas that's really cut short by these Triglavian invasions. And so what do? They move next door. The Mimitar Tribal Council has reasserted the enduring and total sovereignty of the 7 tribes of Mitar over the systems of Starkon, conquered by the Triglavians, and made a Svarog Clade-controlled system within the newly created Pochvin region. The declaration also covered the systems of Krullefor, comes as a various Republic loyalists and pro-Triglavian war clone and capsuleer groups made claims and counterclaims over the status of Starkon and territories within it. Following a meeting of the Tribal Council, Samatar Maltu Shakur said, quote, "It's plain enough to anyone who is actually loyal to the Matari people that the lands of Starkon II and tribal lands are tribal lands in perpetuity. No claims based on the Serpentis Amar-style arguments merit a moment's consideration. Outsiders and fallen kin may try to cook up a pretty meal of persuasion by finely chopping words and logic, but all Matari know that there is no true feast of it for any tribe and clan to be found in such dressed-up pap. What colorful language. The Minmatar Republic considers all territories of Starkon system to now fall under the direct jurisdiction of Starkon Tribal Resistance Army commanded by Valkyr General Krullefor as the sole lawful authority representing the Council of the Seven Tribes of Matar. The Thucker tribe has also confirmed that various territorial leases of its tribal land in Starkon II were, quote, automatically terminated when acts of terror and war were made against the lawful government of Starkon II. The Starkon Tribal Resistance Army continues to defy the Triglavian invaders in Starkon II, with a number of missile strikes carried out by the Svarog Clade and pro-Triglavian war clone positions in recent weeks. Additionally, STRA numbers have been bolstered by reinforcements and volunteers from the Republic Armed Forces and Minmatar paramilitary groups. Despite the resistance efforts, reports from Edencom briefings indicate Svarog forces continue to hold the population centers of Starkon II and are slowly expanding their zones of control across the planet. Death toll over 500 in gang war between Angel Cartel and Krullefor organization on Inur 6. Rival groups bolstered by Starkon gang members. So the war immediately spills over into Inur. Serpentis Corporation denies involvement of assassination of federal drug enforcement officers in Octavane system. I mean, Krullefor was actively prosecuting an ethnic and politically dissident cleansing with summary executions. Yeah, that's, I mean, like, he's not a great dude either. Using Sekal and Krullefor as enforcers. There's no good dudes in this scenario. That's true. Gotta hand it to CCP for all the lore stuff. What other company would go through these lengths to have such deep lore? Yeah, I know, and people just ignore it. It's sad. That's why we're here. If you like Eve lore, like the stream, so that way more people get to see it. So then in 2021, a lot of these are going to be just little updates about the turf war. Angel Cartel turf war with Krullefor organization heat up again in Inner system, sees increase in smuggling activity. Then we have the Black Dagger murders. This is all related to Krullefor and all that stuff. The dread attacks begin happening. Angel Cartel and Krullefor organization continue to trade gang war assassinations and bombings in Inur 6, Republic Justice Department. Smuggling pipeline from edges of Molten Heath to fringes of Placid, top item on the agenda of GPD and RJD Security Summit on Polaris 10, 2021, 5/27. We have Angel Cartel assassinates Krullefor organization's top underboss in Inur system at meeting with Thucker clanners. Thucker tribe Sekal clan vows to avenge killings in violation of codes of clan hospitality. So this is when the Thucker tribes, and especially the Sekal clan, really properly get involved in the Inur system stuff. And the next month later, we have the new Stargates coming online as we build new Stargates for one for each empire. Minmatar Republic's security dominated the latest meeting of the Tribal Council with measures to command renegade war clones, fund more clandestine operations, and raise new volunteer armies for the defense of Flosis Wind 4 and the liberation of Starkon and Krullefor. Despite a lengthy session that observers described as a heated at time, the package of measures gained consent from the entire Tribal Council. Yeah, so the question was, are the Krullefor players? At this point, no. When Dust 514 went down, they've used the corporations in Dust 514 in various different places, but they're, at this point, 100% NPC organizations, for the most part, as far as I know. Now, there's loyalists, obviously, player loyalists that want to work for each of the sides, but these are effectively NPC groups at this point. Chief Akasa Midgeler of the Sebester tribe expresses concern of an overexpanding security state that imperils the freedoms and rights of our clans and tribes. Rejection of sweeping rights of Concord Sorrow Red Troop and anti-war clone and derail anti-AI units to enter tribal and clan territories under Republic Security Service supervision was inevitable, with 5 tribes objecting to such measures. However, Chief Tenorhad Daikon of the Crucial and Chief Einar Abul of the Thucker were able to win the day by enhanced investigatory powers by the RSS anti-war clone units, and the Brutor and Starkminer tribes were persuaded of this need by the rise of the renegade war clones associated with Amar and Triglavian slavers and invaders. Funding for clandestine units able to operate against the increasing pirate and illegal slaver operations, as well as infiltrate occupied territories and Pochvin in the militia war zones, was less controversial. The council also passed funding and enabling measures to provide for raising further volunteer armies for the defense of Flosis 4, liberation of Starkon and Krullefor, and supported militia and liberation operations generally. So, again, continuing to heat up, continuing to go on, this little conflict in that area. And then, Starkon has its own fighting. but now this has become mostly Triglavian focused. Krullefor and Sekal ally with Intara family and Anakanobo brigade to control Anur Uman smuggling routes. Boom. That one. That right there. That's the note that stood out to me as the first sign of what we now have happening. Okay? So the Krullefor family and Sekal mercenary group. Okay, so Sekal mercenary group has now gotten involved. So Krullefor was fighting the Angel Cartel. Krullefor gets messed up by the Angel Cartel, and so the Sekal clan come in to back them up. The Sekal clan has connections to the Intara family, which is and the Anakanobo brigade, which are both criminal Kaldari groups. Who works with all three, the Sekal, the Intara, and the Anakanobo brigade? None other than our good old buddy, the Deathless. So here we see the Deathless first stepping in, potentially first stepping in, at this point in Anur, where we have Krullefor and Sekal now teaming up with Intara and Anakanobo brigade against the Angel Cartel. Now, remember, the Deathless also, one of the very first things that he did was effectively an attack against the Serpentis Corporation. So now the Deathless has worked against both the Angel Cartel and the Serpentis Corporation through his proxies. You guys didn't think that this was going to be relevant, did you? Next, in Tribal Liberation Day, July 10th, YC 123. Yeah, so all this stuff is happening while the fight over Flossiswind is happening. So the major militaries are focused on that, which allows these kind of secondary groups to control this area, those outer fringe areas. Sekal clan troop transport spotted arriving in force in Anur 6 as Krullefor Angel Cartel gang war continues. Intara Direct Action reports raid on Oijinan Garista space, claims evidence of Insurum smuggling and trafficking. So Intara Direct Action is still working against the Garistas. 16 days later, we have New Eden Defense Fund income gets reduced, so Edencom gets weakened. This actually gets fixed shortly thereafter, but still. Garistas pirates implicated on House of Records archive. This is actually a big one. This attack is actually the attack that gets referenced by Hokuzutsu during the fight. So allegedly Leopold and Valari was the one who helped get the Garistas to make this attack. Everybody's focused on the EOM at this point. Military Governor of Anur 6 requests increased forces from Tribal Liberation as death mounts an Angel Cartel Krullefor gang war. But the gang war continues. Lorelite was there for most of this. Yeah, Lorelite is highly involved in all of this stuff. Especially the Ugali situation, which is a whole... We are intentionally avoiding that rabbit hole in this conversation. Okay, so we see the establishment of St. Tetramon as a more forceful order in the modern day. Dispute over land and transport rights break out between Verrokior and Thucker clans in Anur 6. So now the Verrokior, another clan, is getting involved. Thucker Council of Caravans disavow responsibility for clans outside of jurisdictions of the Great Caravan. So basically, Verrokior are being attacked by these Thucker clans, and the main Thucker caravan is like, hey man, we can't do anything about the renegade ones, which is basically a way of saying that this is the Sekal mercenary group that is doing this. Military Governor of Anur 6 authorizes territorial guards to carry out police action. Turf war between RSS, RJD, Verrokior tribe marshals ensue over Sekal clan cargo seizures. So things are really starting to escalate between the Republic and these different forces. The next month, we see the formation of the Association for Interdisciplinary Research, or AIR, as that is happening. Raid on Ajinan 2 Garistas hideout by Intara Direct Action. That's billions in corporate script accounts, transaction chains. So Intara Direct Action are still deeply in contest with Garistas. Republic Justice Strike Team interprets large Angel Cartel human trafficking convoy in Matakan system. RJD refuses to comment on claims of intelligence on Angel Cartel convoy passed on from RSS field agents in the Anur system. Republic Ambassador Kaitun alleges cartel slavers were delivering our people to the Amar regime in derelict. Lord Governor Ekraz Salev of Amatar Mandate dismisses Republic claims as tired propaganda from a terrorist state. What we see here is the Amar are still working with, especially apparently the Amatar Mandate, working with Angel Cartel, who are doing the human trafficking out of Anur. So RSS have their own field agents in the Anur system where this turf war is going on. They detect that a bunch of slavers are being pulled out of there. They catch the human trafficking convoy, and it's a whole thing. Angel Cartel hijacks mining research ship and raid and ore testing stations. Now we start to get some new characters in.
The Angel Cartel has been confirmed to be behind an armed incursion into an Outer Ring Excavations research and development station in the 4C TAC B7X system, carried out last week. Hijacking of the Rorqual-class industrial capital ship Esperance was evidently the main objective of this operation. The Esperance was being used by Outer Ring Excavations for the testing of prototype moon ore compression technology. Heavily armed cartel commandos infiltrated the station using a captured Bowhead-class freighter, the Astrolabe, which was scheduled to deliver equipment and supplies to the Esperance. Once docked at the 4C TAC B7X station, disguised and equipped with forged biometric identity chips, the Angels managed to load their hidden assault team containers onto the Esperance unopposed. Once in place, the infiltrators struck and heavily armed commandos emerged from the containers. In mere minutes, the Angels took over the ship, powered up, and executed an emergency undock procedure. By the time the alarm was raised and ore security teams were at the docks, the Esperance had warped away. It is believed that the ship jumped out of the system with its prototype compression technology long before ore defense squadrons could respond. The Scope was invited to meet with Outer Ring Excavations CEO Afet Asset on board the Astrolabe earlier today. The interior of the freighter shows clear evidence of a deadly and ruthless assault, but with most of its logs wiped, information on the hijacking is partial at best. The means by which the Angel Cartel assault team managed to board and capture the Astrolabe is unclear, but it is suspected that the attackers hid in the specially modified cargo containers until the ship was underway. With typical Angel Cartel disdain for law enforcement, the attackers made no attempt to hide their affiliation. Indeed, it appears a single audiovisual log from the Astrolabe was deliberately left untouched. This disturbing record shows that at least some of the freighter's doomed crew were cruelly ejected into space after their surrender. CEO Afet Asset made the following statement.
Citizens of New Eden, we came under attack last week when the peaceful mining vessel Esperance was hijacked by cowardly members of the Angel Cartel. The work carried out on the Esperance by its brave and selfless crew will, in the long run, benefit every man, woman, and child of New Eden. Given a prototype moon ore compressor was installed aboard the ship, the Esperance was a unique and extremely valuable element in our development of materials compression technology. Integrated with the ore processing pipeline of our Rorqual-class vessels, this new technology is expected to deliver immense benefits to efficiency and logistics in the mining industries. Compressing moon ores and other harvestable resources will both reduce effective volume and shape the materials into more storage-efficient units. The breakthrough in material compression represented by this suite of technologies is set to revolutionize the mining industries of New Eden, leading to gains for all of our citizens. Of more immediate importance, however, is the fate of more than 50 of our key designers and technicians stationed on board the Esperance during the technology trials. These people are so much more than employees of Outer Ring Excavations. They are human beings with families, husbands and wives, mothers and fathers, sons and daughters. All these people are now held against their will by a ruthless criminal cartel. The safe return of our people is the highest priority of OR and our partners in the Upwell Consortium. We have therefore decided to post a reward of 1 billion ISK for each and every one of our designers or key technicians rescued and returned safely to any of OR's 4 primary stations in the Outer Ring region. Furthermore, we are also keen to share our compression technology with Capsuleers assisting in the search and recovery of our people. This will be done in the form of skill books developed to allow Capsuleers to operate the new compression technologies. These skill books will be awarded via OR loyalty point stores to anyone who returns a sufficient amount of OR research data fragments recovered from the Angel Cartel or their allies to us. Thank you.
The scope will bring updates on the recovery of the people and materials that are so crucial to continuation of materials compression development. This is Alton Hovery, reporting for the scope.
All right, so we now have our name. Rafik Zohar. Rafik Zohar is a commando, is part of the Dominations in the Angel Cartel. He kind of came out of nowhere here, but this is one of our main dudes, okay? So Rafik Zohar is the commando who led this team down to take the Esperance and steal compression technology. While reports remain somewhat confused, sources within the Upwell-led consortium regards it as near certainty that the attackers were members of the Angel Cartel, and in particular associated with a notorious unit known as Commando Zohar, rumored to report directly to the cartel's leadership, the Dominations. If these claims are borne out, and they indicate that the Angel Cartel's highest echelons authorize a direct assault on one of OR's most critical research facilities and industrial development programs. The Rockwell-class ORS Esperance is said to have been a key element in OR's development and testing of new materials and compression technology for use in the vital space and mining and resource harvesting sector. The means by which this heavily armed unit of cartel commandos boarded and seized such a key asset as the Esperance are currently unclear, but one source suggested that another OR ship was used to infiltrate the hidden testing yards. Though clearly shocked and stunned by these events, OR representatives have assured all partners that the organization has moved swiftly to secure their remaining facilities with the assistance of the Upwell Consortium's Department of Friendship and Mutual Assistance. Together with Mordu's Legion Space Security Forces, Directors Lars in Raman emphasized the Upwell Securities Organization and Mordu's Legion would remain on high alert for as long as is needed to resolve the situation and defend the interests of our member organization. That was a thing that happened. It was a big deal, and it, of course, was the beginning of Commando Zohar. Guristas pirates disavow involvement in an attempted renegade AI hack of SEC Komotoro's encrypted currency and script exchange in Naibainen. This is that's a note that I think is worth looking into, but that's not today's. Notorious cartel hijack gang identified as Commander Zohar, reporting to Domination leadership. OR executives confirmed that recovery bounties offered for return of kidnapped compression researchers funded personally by Yanni, who's the the guy who made OR. OR declines to comment on reports of Capsuleers' attempts to extort unspecified demands using kidnapped OR researchers. Known Angel Cartel operative Rafik Zohar identified as leader of the commando group.
Just a month after their main research vessel, the Esperance, was hijacked by Angel Cartel commandos, Outer Ring Excavations have recovered from the incident and rolled out a new line of material compressors. Outer Ring Excavations released the following statement earlier today.
It is with pride and gratitude that we announce a technological breakthrough for the mining industry. We are introducing to market new material compressors designed to be used with our line of industrial command ships, the Porpoise, Orca, and Rorqual classes. Installed deep in the beating heart of the ships, these new compressors are equipped with powerful computer arrays and logistics firmware that can interface with other ships in mining fleets. These features allow for high-efficiency fleet logistics coordination, permitting rapid transfer, cargo handling, and compression of materials across a mining fleet. From now on, each ship in a mining operation will be able to compress materials in their own cargo hold, utilizing active shipboard compression technology modules fitted to industrial command ships in their fleet. Ice, gas, moon, and asteroid ore can be compressed, providing a significant increase in mining efficiency due to the reduced cargo space required by minerals. Compressed ice, moon, and asteroid ore may be refined in the usual manner, But compressed gas must be decompressed to be used as a resource, and here some losses are possible. This loss of gas can be minimized by skilled operators and by using equipment found in the Tatara refineries. We also are pleased to announce that improvements have been made to the Tatara refinery structure pipeline, applying to all materials. We here at Outer Ring Excavations would also like to use this opportunity to express our gratitude to those who assisted in returning to their families over 40 of our kidnapped staff. To mark this, we will be awarding medals, recognizing the efforts of those capsuleers who have returned any of our researchers. It is in large part thanks to capsuleer efforts in returning our staff and retrieving our stolen data that we have been able to complete the development of this new technology. Unfortunately, not all of our people have been brought back to their families, and once again, we urge capsuleers to assist in making their safe return a reality. Thank you.
This is Alton Havery reporting for the Scope.
So then in the notes, though, we can see, let's see, where is it? Some kidnapped ore scientists handed over to Angel Cartel and Serpentis Corporation by renegade capsuleers. Nefinter, Starkminer, and Varrokier tribes pursue liberalization of Mimitar economy in assembly in debates against Crucial Thuckerblock. That's interesting to note because the Varrokier were in that conflict with the Krullefor organization. And then Gris's pirate implicated in raid of the Arturus House of Record Station. Yeah, this is the attack that Leopold apparently helped. Serpentis Corporation accused of complicity and massive smuggling of drugs, illegal cyberware, and armaments into Galente Caldari war zone. Angel Cartel's Rafik Zohar added to the most wanted list. A couple months later is what at the time seemed to be a very unrelated event.
Residents and workers at the Jita 44 Trade Hub were astounded by the sight of hundreds of capsules exiting the station this morning. After the apparently unauthorized mass launch, the capsules quickly warped off into space before they could be contained by approaching Caldari Navy patrols. Caldari authorities have described the mass capsule launch as a combined theft, sabotage, and escape operation, believed to be a cover for Gurista's agents being hunted in the Jita 44 station. The identity of those making their escape using these capsules remains mostly unknown, with indications many of the capsules were launched as automated decoys. However, the Caldari state has issued a general arrest warrant for Commander Ezri Hakuzosu, a military director of one of the Caldari Navy's research and development groups. Sources have informed the Scope that Commander Hakuzosu is suspected to be the ringleader of a group of sleeper agents and defectors working deep undercover within the Caldari state over a considerable period of time. Commander Ezri Hakuzosu had been military director of a Navy research group on advanced capital ship construction and development, recently focusing on the venerable Phoenix-class Caldari dreadnoughts. It is assumed that at least some of the leaked information involves advances in capital shipbuilding technology. Caldari state officials urge all Caldari citizens to do their duty and hunt down these capsules and destroy them on sight. Capsules have been seen orbiting planets and moons and need to be scanned or probed down. Keys found in the wreckage of these capsules have been confirmed to access Gurista's hunt outposts, which seem to be the escaping capsule rendezvous points. Any recoverable data or corpses are to be retrieved and handed over to the Caldari Navy through established trading protocols. There are indications that information of critical strategic importance to Caldari state interests was stolen by the Infiltration Group, with other empires and pirate organizations apparently making bids for any stolen information through the capsuleer market. The regions around Venal have seen a significant increase in Caldari Navy and Gurista's activity, as ships on both sides attempt to scan down and retrieve the hijacked capsules. Occasional clashes between the fleets have also been reported. The Venal region seems to be the main destination of the hijacked capsules, supporting the theory of Gurista's involvement in this operation. Like many outlaw groups, the Garista's pirates appear to have been upgrading and expanding their capital ship construction operations recently. There are also reported sightings from across the Venal region of some kind of mobile military shipyard guarded by Garista's forces. Dedicated Garista's capital-building shipyards have also been encountered, and Capsuleers are advised to show extreme caution when approaching these heavily defended installations. The Scope will continue to report as the situation develops. This is Alton Havery, reporting for the Scope.
S3 Hokuzosu infiltrates Jita 4-4 and then eventually is outed, and so they have to scramble to escape. It turns out the person that she's related to, or she's dealing with, is Leopold and Valari. Underworld violence in Placid, Solitude, and Syndicate regions linked to ongoing Angel Cartel turf war with Krullefor organization. So now we got to look at the map. We have Curse down here, but Placid, Solitude, and Syndicate is over here, clearly in the Galente Caldari area, whereas Curse is down here. Now that might seem really, really confusing to anyone who hasn't watched this entire video, right? Like, it makes sense. They have connections with the Serpentis, and therefore they have things deployed out here, including in the Syndicate area. Because remember, Angel Cartel has connections to the Serpentis, who have connections to the Syndicate. We have increased smuggling going on within this area over here, and the Angel Cartel are deeply connected to it. In fact, the entire turf war between the Krullefor organization was in Molten Heath, in this area in Molten Heath, with Anura and Starkon, has now actually spilled over into this area because as it gets heated up. Now, who operates in this area a lot? Again, the Deathless. Yeah, the Angels have NPC stations in Fountain. Yeah. Because that's, well, that's what we talked about, is that, like, the Angel Cartel was able to... Wait, hold on. Who's normally in Fountain? Fountain is Serpentis, right? Yeah. So the Angel Cartel and the Serpentis built stations in each other's areas, which is how they're able to project into each other's areas so well. That was what we learned earlier. So yeah, that makes total sense. So then we have this.
Concord has made a major breakthrough in its fight against a rising tide of smuggling, uncovering a major network of smuggler and mercenary bases across New Eden. Sources in the Directive Enforcement Department have indicated that Thucker and Caldari organized crime and mercenary groups have played a key role in building up this network.
Wait. So there's a smuggler network that is Thucker and Caldari criminal families, like Intara Direct Action, Anakanobo Brigade. Yeah, okay. Tracks.
Concord has shared this information with all empires and is requesting the assistance of Capsuleers in disrupting this extensive web of hideouts and dead drop hacking sites. Smuggler hideouts are reported to be spread across New Eden, including a number of bases hidden in the depths of wormhole space. Concord has broadcast the gravimetric and electromagnetic signatures of these locations so the illegal sites can be found using onboard ship scanners. Smuggler dead drop and stash sites have been detected in all regions, with these requiring scanning and hacking to discover and disrupt. Concord has declared that any materials recovered by Capsuleers in the course of dismantling the smuggling network will be legitimate salvage to be retained as payment for services to interstellar law and order. Against the background of increased criminal and smuggling activity, a serious diplomatic crisis has sprung up between the Caldari state and the Galente Federation, as evidence has emerged pointing towards Galente involvement in the recent mass defection of infiltrators and spies within the Caldari state. An investigation by Caldari counterintelligence has identified a man meeting with Esri Hakuzosu days prior to her defection as Leopold N. Valari, a Galente diplomat attached to the federal consulate on the Jita 4TAC4 trade hub. Leopold N. Valari appears to have been assisting the Galente Senate delegation visiting the Caldari state 2 months ago. One key goal of the Senate delegation's visit was to explore possible avenues of achieving a peaceful resolution of the status of the long-disputed Intaki system. Located in the contested Placid region, the war-torn system contains Intaki Prime, homeworld of the Intaki people. Extensive militia warfare over the past decade has seen the system change hands dozens of times. with periods of lengthy occupation and even planetary raiding by Caldari forces. The Senate visit had ended just as the Garista's spy ring was exposed, and Leopold Envalari is reported to have returned to the Federation with the Gallente delegation. The Caldari State's chairman, Akimaka Saraki, is known to have been in direct communication with President Celis Agard of the Gallente Federation as diplomats on both sides scramble to swiftly resolve this sudden crisis. The Gallente Federation firmly denies any involvement in the infiltration of state military and research agencies by Garista spies, but this development has already set back discussions on the future of the Intaki system, causing alarm on Intaki Prime. Federal authorities are refusing to confirm or deny reports that Envalari has subsequently disappeared. The Caldari state has added Leopold Envalari to their most wanted list, ignoring Gallente protests at listing a federal diplomat as a wanted criminal. The Scope will report as the situation develops. This is Alton Haveri, reporting for the Scope.
So Leopold Envalari has now been identified as the operative, and apparently, like I said, allegedly he was a double agent. Let's see. Federal Senate refuses to comment on status of Leopold Envalari while protesting Caldari warrant for arrest. There's a lot of strong evidence that shows that the Gallente have a strong relationship with the Deathless. Tucker and Caldari organized crime and mercenary organizations reported cooperating in smuggling enterprise. There you go. That's Deathless Network right there. Delegates to Interstellar Anti-Smuggling and Counter-Piracy Conference arrive in Jita 4-4 ahead of Summit, so they're having an anti-smuggling and piracy conference. This is based on S3 Hekazotsu and the Zohar event happening all back-to-back. Krullefor organization working with Sekal Clan Expeditionary Group to smuggle illegal weapons according to ACN report, ACN being Amar. Intara family denies claims by Ueakomi Corporation that state corporate law broken by Intara direct action. Which leads us to this video.
Capsuleers attending a session of the Interstellar Anti-Smuggling and Counter-Piracy Conference at the Jita 4 TAC 4 Trade Hub were surprised when a Concord presentation on rising smuggler activity was apparently hijacked by the very same smugglers.
Platitudes, blandishments, lies. You of all people know that Concord and the Empires have no interests in common with you. They have done nothing for you. They shall do nothing for you. How long will you listen to their empty words? In recent days, as is their pitiful habit, Concord has made use of you to advance their own agenda. These free trade outposts you have so willingly cleared of my associates have been taken over by Concord's worst, the Cerro. Perhaps you don't believe me? Check for yourself. I have broadcast the new signatures of those sites to all. Why should you not destroy the Sorrow bully boys? They have always sought to control you. Do their bidding no more. Open your eyes. Seize your destiny. And, if you would, join me, the Deathless.
Embarrassed by this intrusion, Concord officials have refused to comment on Sorrow activity at occupied smuggler outposts, other than to state that measures are simply being carried out to ensure the complete eradication of illegal smuggling activities. Any recent improvements in the strained diplomatic relationship between the Gallente Federation and the Caldari state have been overshadowed by claims that a Gallente diplomat was involved in a massive spy ring operating within the Caldari state. The Caldari State's chairman, Akimaka Saraki, delivered a fiery speech in a live broadcast from the Caldari Chief Executive Panel yesterday. The scheduled speech was reportedly originally aimed at promoting interstellar diplomacy due to the ongoing Jita 4 TAC 4 summit. However, with state corporations and citizens expressing outrage over the new allegations, the delivered speech leaned heavily into patriotic rhetoric and evoked previous hostilities with the Gallente state.
We remain Caldari, no matter the cost.
No direct response or comments have been made by the Gallente Federation so far, but Federation Navy and Customs Forces have been placed on heightened alert status. This is Alton Haveri, reporting for the Scope.
Okay, so the Deathless comes out and shows himself, and like I said, he's clearly working with Entire Direct Action, on a Control Brigade, Sekel Mercenary Group, or, you know, the Sekel Clan, etc. So then comes the Shadow War. Mercenaries raiding research facilities, likely trading with pirate and empire interests, said DED. It's worth noting that the mercenaries in the Shadow War have the same Caldari Mimitar coupling, and fly the same basic ship comps that the smugglers did, that were then later identified as part of the Deathless's network. During the Shadow Wars, we also have the appearance of the Guri Malakim. So the Guri Malakim are the alliance of Guristas and Angels, which seem, now that we've looked at this, to be almost like a relationship of, not desperation, but like, you know, they're pushed into this by the fact that, you know, the Deathless Network has kind of unified a whole bunch of these other organizations and has clearly had negative interactions with both the Guristas and the Angel Cartel. Angel Cartel and Guristas pirates reportedly agreed to division of smuggling routes in Sphere of Influence. So at this point, during the Shadow Wars, the Angel Cartel and the Guristas basically set aside their differences and divide up their territories and become more friendly with one another. All right? Oh, yeah. Okay, sorry. This was actually a little bit before. Darn it. Edencom intelligence has reported a deeply concerning trend of capsular and mercenary involvement in Triglavian technology acquisition and trading, according to reports presented by the Concord Inner Circle by Provost Marshal Gashia Valkanir. The Edencom analysis of recent activity is identified as an alarming spike of activity by mercenaries associated with organized crime groups representing an alliance between renegade, Caldari, and Mimitar interests. Read Deathless. Edencom Marshal Valkanir has met with a significant criticism for focusing on so-called Caldari interests from the state's representative Ishikone CEO Men's Repala. Mimitar Ambassador Kite Yun refused to vote to accept the report, stating that it is an attempt by the Amar Empire's Edencom cat's paw to put legitimate interests in the Republican state on all fours with the recently exposed espionage efforts. The Federation's Ambassador Devin Melitate expressed the displeasure of the politicization of Edencom and the vital interstellar regime of technology sharing of the Ulai Accords. Remember, Edencom had just been revealed as being part of the, you know, being used by the Amar to spy on the Caldari and steal technology from them. So, you know, the Edencom is already in like hot water during all of this, which is one of the reasons why these calls for pirate concerns kind of go unheeded at the time. Guristas pirates steal shipment of biotechnology research tools in transit to Republic to State. Caldari State Peacekeepers investigate claims of Sorrow Red Troop and derail commando units' atrocities in Pregler. Serpentis Inquest record profits from military cyber implants and war clone development divisions. Reports claim Angel Cartel and Krullefor organization peace treaty on Anur as demands rise for contraband throughout Molten Heath. So there you go. In Anur, in the system of Anur, which has now become like the source of that turf war, right? Angel Cartel and Krullefor organization, the two groups in the turf war, come to a peace treaty in Anur in order to rise up to the demand for contraband throughout Molten Heath. So this is the first clue that, wait a minute, some of the Deathless's group is now actually making friends with the Angel Cartel. And then the Angel Cartel and the Guristas reportedly agree on smuggling routes in spheres of influence. So now we're starting to see all of those conflicts are starting to be tamped back down. The great negotiators are getting involved. And this is also when Leopold and Valari was in Anur. There's a post here. It says, if you search for Leopold and Valari, it'll say he's in Anur 10 Moon 7 Impro Research Center station in the Anur system, Ilof constellation of Molten Heath region. So that's interesting because, again, that's where the deal between the turf war was done. Okay, so peace at last, peace in our day between the pirates. So then comes the rise of the Guri Malakim, which are, so the Society of Conscious Thought come forward and reveal that the Guri Malakim are actually raiding Jovian structures in order to steal technology. So we have the Deathless Net Circle that is stealing tech from the empires involving Triglavian technology, the Triglavian, the shipcaster technology, the stellar transmuter technology, and the novel transportation technology, which is what was being hunted for during the Shadow War in order to create the shipcasters. That same technology was also being stolen by the mercenaries, working for the Deathless, presumably, in order to sell on the free market broadly. At around that same time, we see this newly formed Guri Malakim kind of unify together in order to start raiding Jovian facilities. So we now have Deathless is going after Triglavian, Guri is going after Jovian. It makes sense that the Guri Malakim would go after the Jovian because the Guri Malakim include the Angels Cartel, which is probably the people that are the most knowledgeable about Jovian technology in the cluster right now. So they both go after their own things in order to gain power. We see this kind of arms race going up between the Guri Malakim and the Deathless Circle. CDIA reports claims the Guri Malakim coalition of Angel Cartel and Gristis pirates exploiting new mutual interests. What is that new mutual interests? Dealing with the Deathless Circle. Research and archaeotech activities of Society Conscious Thought attacked by Guri Malakim pirate grouping. Angel Cartel dominations leadership pursuing relatively peaceful strategy in espionage and tech smuggling, says CDIA. Several heists of Gristis pirates implicated in several heists of research materials and installation of black rights. So the Gristis pirates are just going around robbing people, whereas the Angels are raiding the Jovian structures. And so they're all coming together. SOCT sounds warnings over uncontrolled spread of advanced technology in pirates' hands. Elder Mentor Matishi Reich of the Society of Conscious Thought warned of grave and potential catastrophic consequences over the apparent uncontrolled spread of advanced technology among networks of criminals and pirate groups across New Eden. In remarks to journalists ahead of Concord's Inner Circle meeting that will include fresh negotiations on technology sharing and technology controls between New Eden empires, Concord insiders expect the issue of increasing pirate and organized crime group to be the cutting-edge technology will sharply color the topic of restrictions on exploiting the so-called ancient technologies and those derived from sources such as Triglavian collectors, sleepers, and drifters. The Society of Conscious Thought has been so concerned by the recent activities of the self-styled Guri Malakim pirate group as to sponsor independent capsuleers to engage in countervailing operations targeting criminal exploitation of sites using the ancient Jovian observatories. Elder Matashi Reich emphasizes the serious risk of alliance of thieves and murderers participating in a new emergent risk crisis at a time in which New Eden civilization is best set by internal and interscene conflicts. The Guri Malakim group appears to be an alliance of convenience between subgroups of the Gristis pirates and Angel Cartel focused on the acquisition of advanced technology. Notably, the coalition is believed to be led by the notorious criminal operatives and technology acquisition specialists Esri Hokusotsu and Rafik Zohar. So here we go. 1 year ago, the Angels and the Gristis have their operations. The Gristis get screwed over, it would seem, by the Deathless. The Angels have a long history with the Deathless. And so here, these two people have now come together to be allies with one another, to unite in their common mutual interests. So in comes the Guri Malakim led by these two operatives. Hagazotsu is a Gristis agent who came to widespread notice as the leader of the Ring of Spies in the Caldari Navy Capital Research Ship Program and development programs operating outside the Jita 44 trade substation. Zohar is well known to law enforcement as leader of the highly capable and brutally efficient cartel assault and retrieval team. The Commando Zohar group is responsible for a number of high-profile technology heists, culminating in the hijack of ore research vessel and scientists working on valuable material compression technology. Okay? So they're worried about these different things. But as we know, there's actually two different groups kind of coming together, right? The empires are incapable of dealing with this because they're basically descending into their own war. Renegade Worgen clones fight way out of Sorrow ambush on Mirotem 6 after attempting rescue of Angel Cartel Kingpin. That's an interesting one. And that leads us to today. So now it would seem that the Deathless has now reached out to the Guri Malakim and said, hey, you guys have been doing some stuff, but you're interested in Jovian technology. Guess what I have? And that is the invitation. That's the video that we got to see. So we'll close with that. So this is a Guri Malakim base. there's our Deathless agent. I have not.
Let's see it. I bring promise of a brighter future for us all. This is an invitation.
So again, what is the Deathless inviting them to? An alliance, right? Mutual interest. Bury the hatchet. Unite the pirates against the empires. People are saying like, oh yeah, people are asking what is the location of the Deathless Hand? So this is what I think. I think that this is the system of Anur. I think that the Deathless is operating in the system of Anur, and that is his major base of operations. As we saw, it was a major place for the conflict, and it has now become the major operational area for the recent pirate agreements, including in particular the ones involving the Deathless. So the other thing that's really important to note about this is that in this video, or in this record, there is a thing about the meaning of the word. There's the, hold on a second.
Following a remarkable hunt by Capsuleers, 4 ancient Jovian Stargates have been discovered. The first Stargate was found in the devastated system of Turner, discovered by the Winterco Research Group. The same group also located another gate in G-0Q86. The third gate was found in H-PA29 by the Capsuleer Hack, while the last one was found by Capsuleer Cyron Istyar in the system of Alsavoinen. Both these Capsuleers wished to mention and acknowledge the open source efforts done by the Arataka Research Consortium and collaborators, attributing to them a crucial role in finding the gates. The gates appear to have lain hidden and dormant for many centuries. While the gates are currently offline, they're shrouded by an unusual active cloaking field and appear to be completely intact. The discovery of the Stargates was the culmination of tremendous efforts by Capsuleers to collect and decipher pirate data in recent days. The gate's search was sparked by leaked security footage from an undisclosed pirate hideout showing a figure now confirmed to be the Deathless, the shadowy leader of a circle of pirates, smugglers, and mercenaries. In a ceremony held at the School of Conscious Thought at FDZ-4-A, Elder Mentor Machi Raish awarded the Capsuleers involved and vowed further investigation.
On behalf of the Society of Conscious Thought and the people of New Eden, we thank you for your efforts and perseverance in the search for these Jovian Stargates. Your achievement is remarkable, and as promised, you will receive your due reward. Preliminary findings from a survey of the first gate to be found indicate that it has probably been recently reconnected with its destination system. However, it is clearly in a locked state and is almost certainly under control of a network routed through its connection, likely at some central location. We speculate that the controlling location is that referred to by the name Zarzak. This name appears to be an ancient Amar word, meaning at the edge, but it is currently unclear what this may refer to. We believe that the Deathless is controlling the state of this gate, and any others that exist from this Zarzak location. Rest assured that every effort will be made to gain further understanding of this remarkable discovery, and make sure that the opportunities and knowledge it brings will be used to the benefit of all of New Eden. Thank you.
Where do these gates lead is the question that's on everyone's mind today. The Scope will continue to monitor this story and keep you informed as it develops. This is Alton Hovery, reporting for The Scope.
So, yeah, there you go. The Jovian Stargates that lead to a place, what is it?
Referred to by the name Zarzak.
Zarzag, which means the edge, right? Well, if you look at the Amarian territory, if you assume that the Mimitar, remember, this whole area was Amarian territory, then Molten Heath is at the edge of that territory, and Anur is right there at the boundary, right before what's known as the point of no return. So there could be he could have maybe occupied the point of no return, but my point is that it really seems like the focus is going to be on Anur or the area around it when it comes to the Deathless and the Angels. So if we look at the other Stargates, we can see that it was, hold on, the system of GTAC OQ86 is right here, and if you can see, it's in the heart of the Curse region, right? So that's Angel Cartel territory. Then PA29 system, but the edge of Venal, so near the Garistas. Then we have the Perner system, which of course was made famous by us accidentally trying to blow up the sun, which is in the Mimitar Amar war zone. And then we also have the last one, which is Alsavoinen, which is in the Galente Caldari war zone. Okay, so you've got a Garistas gate, an Angel gate, a Galente Caldari gate, war zone gate, and a Mr Mimitar war zone gate. All right, and then of course they all link up to in or around Anur. So it's very possible that what we're going to see is a new pirate organization. HPA is the Garistas headquarters system. That seems right. There you go. 2 Garistas assembly plants. Any rate, so it wouldn't even have to be a star. The gate was just out in the void by itself. Yes, but the coordinates required it to be within range of a star. So it couldn't just be out in the middle of nowhere. It could be a new region, but I'm just saying, like, I still think that Anur is a really good suspicion, given how much focus, as we've seen, how many times Anur has shown up in the lore, or in the story so far. You know, whatever. But we're going to learn more about this this weekend. I think that probably just about covers it for today. I hope this has been a fun little journey through time. I know I said it was about Angel Cartel, but everything kind of spirals out. So I hope that, like, the thread of why all this stuff is important, while at the same time not going down too many of the crazy rabbit holes. I'm sure that people are going to be upset if I don't mention Mithra's Gate. I don't know how that all ties into this, or even when Mithra's Gate occurs chronologically. So it was hard for me to work into this narrative, but there's a lot going on with the Angel Cartel. And I hope that this helps. I have other videos on the Garistas and the Galente, the Caldari, all sorts of stuff on the lore on the video, or on the YouTubes, on my channel. There's playlists and whatnot. But all that said, I've been Ashtarothi. I've been playing this game since 2010, talking about it since 2012, and I'm here to put even into context for you, my fellow Empyrean. Thank you guys so much for coming. It has been a great time. Glad to be back once again. Very excited to continue to look towards the future and prepare us for the rise of the pirates. Yar.
Are you? Not bad, you? Not bad. All right.
I would like to give extra special thanks to all of you who have watched this please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the video. These videos are, you know, I put a lot of research into them, and I really want to help raise everybody's literacy. And I also really want to thank Lorelite for being here and helping out with getting things organized, or, you know, maybe filling in some pieces. In fact, in order to kind of highlight that, I want to say Lorelite has a series of posts that they've made on the fiction portal. You can follow along the craziest conspiracy drama that has been going on since, as you can see, 2018, and leads on to like 2 days ago. So this is, of course, player-based stuff, but when it comes to these kinds of things in particular in the story, so yeah, I just wanted to thank Lorelite for coming here and all of your effort and work that you put into the community and making all of this into something interesting and make it make sense for all of us, including me. So, and then of course I want to thank my top sponsors: Abyssus, Aikiwarazu-chan, Arcus Earling, Eridanika the Queen, Belligerent Neckbeard, Black Rose Noble, Dejant Lamont, Drake, Golden Age Story, J. Coon, Lumi, Midnight Space Monkey, Milk, Not Just Fun, Seeds of Plenty, Serenolin with No Eyes, Ciliana Valesh, Tijen, Nephilim, Grendel, Yanti Leapwolf, Zolnex, as well as my Immortal tier supporters: 745 MPSI, Ebo Leet, May, Malik Starfire, Mercutan, Nihilum, LM1, and Rid. Thank you guys so much. I've been Ashrothi, the voice of New Eden, and I'll see you in space.